Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Bodhi, this is your fucking wake-up call, man. I am a P-O-D cast.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's the best line in the movie, right?
It's great delivery.
It's a great delivery.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I love that line.
I love that movie.
I love that movie.
This movie that we're talking about today.
Yes.
On what podcast? Blank Check with Griffin and David. Hi, I'm Griffin.
Great job. David Sims. I'm David Sims.
Griffin Newman.
Yes.
This is a podcast about filmographies. Directors who have had massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever wild passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear. Sometimes they bounce, baby. And this is kind of the movie that starts, the checkbook is sort of issued with some contingencies after this.
Yeah. No. Because after this is her blank check. This is her.
Agreed.
This is her blank check.
Yes.
Her whatever. What? This is her loan approval.
Sure.
You know what do you call the movie
right.
that gets you the blank check?
Right. What do you need to do to get a checkbook, to open a checking account?
Right. This is her 2 forms of ID.
Right.
Your guarantor.
Yeah.
This movie's her guarantor.
This is like your rich parent coming with you to the
That's
bank.
the word. This is her guarantor.
This is her
Thank
guarantor.
you for talking on mic
Thank
before
you.
we introduce you, as
Thank
I
you.
prefer.
Always.
Yes.
So this is a miniseries about the films of Catherine Bigelow. It is called Pod 19, The Widowcaster.
That's right.
And today we're talking about what is sort of, I mean, weirdly, she's got 2 defining films
got
of
2
her career.
consensus favorites, I
Right.
guess.
Right.
And this is the first.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
2 movies that if you point a gun at someone and say, what are your favorite Bigelow movies? They, like Family Feud style. These would probably be top 2.
Right. And they're arguably like,
Hurt Locker being the
yes,
other one.
they're arguably like 2 major phases of her career. And this represents one. The second represents the other.
Yeah, I would say there's the sexy boys phase, and then there's the sort of like gritty realism, like topical
docudrama phase.
Right.
And then I'm curious to see whether I feel like we might be on the verge of a third phase.
I would love her to go back to Sexy Boys, honestly.
Me too.
Yeah, that'd be just fine.
This is one of the sexiest boy movies ever made.
Yep.
It is called Point Break.
Yep.
And boy, everything about this movie is sexy.
Steeped in the female gaze.
Yes.
It is.
But
it
even
it
just
truly
like,
is.
I want to fuck the waves in this movie.
That's also true.
You know, like
Yep.
everything is so
I want
well
to fuck
shot.
the meatball sandwiches in this movie.
It's a very like weirdly sexual romantic movie in every sense. Because I look at the sandwiches, I'm like, that's a good fucking looking sandwich.
I want to fuck Swayze's hair in this movie.
Swayze's hair is unbelievable.
He grew that shit. That's him.
So the movie we're talking about today, of course, is K-19, The Widowmaker. Point Break.
Boy, yeah.
The film we're talking about today is Point Break, and I'm very excited for our guest we have today who has already spoken because
That's
she
how I
knows
like
her
it.
shit.
That's how I like
she knows
it.
her shit. She's a longtime Blankie, big supporter of the show, and she's a performer and a writer.
Gal about town.
TV
producer. All kinds of shit.
all sorts of stuff. Friend of mine, Lux Alptraum. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. This is one of my top 5 movies.
I said to David and Ben, this is like your Toy Story 2.
Yes.
Like, this is the movie that you know backwards
Well-
and forwards, have analyzed every single element of, could probably watch the most, have maybe watched the most.
I love it so much.
I feel like years ago when we were still a Star Wars podcast and we were kind of like, what's this podcast going to be?
Mhm.
You pitched us on a Point Break episode.
I probably
Yes,
did.
Yes, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
Because I love it.
And it's finally come to pat. Is all.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah.
And it's my dreams are coming true, and it's all downhill from here.
But
sure.
it is one of those movies that
For
you
all of
like
us.
enjoy. Because I know I have some distinction between like, these are my favorite movies and these are what I think are the best movies ever made. And there's some overlap in my top 10 list. But like, this is a cross-section movie for you where it's like, you probably enjoy watching this as much as any movie ever made, but you're also like fascinated by the semiotics of this movie and
Yes.
everything. Yeah.
Yes, no, I took my like pages and pages of notes. But no, I mean, it's interesting because like, I think it's a great movie. There are also things that are ridiculous and stupid about it.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I make a list of like the top 5 movies that are like, not necessarily greatest movies ever made, but like movies that like I love, it is definitely on there. And like movies where I'm like, these are maybe little outliers, but like I'm deeply emotional about them. Point Break.
But it also is like one of those movies where everything that's stupid about it is baked into the cake. Like, is
Yes.
necessary for the things that are like
absolutely.
aesthetically wonderful about it to work.
Well, yeah, like I was watching it this time and I was like, everything that she plants gets paid off.
Mhm.
Like, there's just like, so much shit where you're like, oh, that's a throwaway detail. No, it's not.
And there's also this weird thing where, like, I feel like largely because of this movie, Catherine Bigelow's reputation for a long time was like someone like a Walter Hill or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like they've had some hits, they've had some flops. A certain like section of like the film literati go like there's a really strong technical filmmaker there, but they work so much in genre and so much of it's kind of like ostensibly corny that like a certain pretentious film snob won't take them seriously.
Yeah.
And it isn't until like a decade or so later that people go like, no, that's a real deal filmmaker and we didn't give him credit at the time. And I feel like that reevaluation was happening right around the time that Hurt Locker came out.
Yeah.
Like she had this amazing timing where everyone was like, oh, we didn't really appreciate her when she was getting big studio budgets, did we? And then she made like a quote unquote serious adult movie without those like genre trappings.
Well, but this movie when it came out did not get great reviews.
Exactly.
Got, like,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
people were
Yes.
like, oh, it's like dumb fun. Like I feel like it's
Yeah.
one of those movies that critics didn't want to admit they respected because
No,
it's
which is so-
ostensibly stupid.
Well,
but it's not.
And also the critical
It's not.
community in 1991 is maybe a little less like interested in trash masterpieces.
Right, but that's
or
like something like
whatever.
The Warriors or whatever, where when it
Yeah.
comes out, everyone's just sort of like, okay, I see what
All
you're
right,
doing.
you
there.
like Walter Hill, we get it.
I just
Yeah.
feel he's an interesting kind of like counterpoint, you know?
No,
but he
yeah.
never had his Hurt Locker.
But it's also, I think it's like really well
Right.
done, but it's also really easy to miss how well done it is.
Yeah.
Because like there are the ridiculous elements.
But
like,
it is,
I mean, it's basically a movie about like Tim Tebow becomes a cop and then
Sure.
learns to surf.
but it is
Sure.
like,
yes.
it is such a tight fucking screenplay.
It is so good.
It is.
W. Peter Iliff.
What else has he fucking done?
He wrote Patriot Games after this. He
Really?
wrote like a bunch of other specs and sort of, he not what you would think of as a great
Right.
screenwriter, but he's like a Hollywood guy. But this was his breakout script. I'll call up his credits.
She perhaps plus this substantially if he hasn't made
Yeah.
another film that's this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, if you read this on the page, you wouldn't think like that's a great movie, right?
No, but while I was watching it, I was like, this is so fucking well structured.
I mean,
And-
it is. It's a well-structured movie, and it has a handful of like Hall of Fame lines. But I'm just saying, like the script itself is not certainly enough
no.
to. Let's see. He writes Patriot Games after this. He writes Varsity Blues.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Then he writes Under Suspicion with Morgan Freeman and Gene Hackman. It's like a shitty crime movie. Then, oh boy, that's kind of it.
You know what?
that's sort of the end of him. He's still around, I guess, but I don't know.
This feels like one of those things where like she got the script that might have been overwritten at first and was like, we can cut a lot of this out. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
the dialogue is
yeah.
really good. There are all these iconic lines, but there are also a lot of scenes that like there's
The
certain
dialogue
sequences.
is really good, but it's also really bad.
Right.
No, it is a very
Yeah.
fine line.
Right.
Like, I mean, the dialogue delivered wrong would be torturous.
There's
Sure.
some camp to it.
Yes.
High
But
amount of.
there are
character.
also these like sequences of the movie that feel like Battleship Potemkin, where it's just like these like very raw, visceral images, and it's only playing out on faces and like blaring
Yeah.
music.
Oh,
You know,
I mean, yes.
there are like 4 moments like that are just like transcendent.
Yeah, there's also I think an attention to stunts like that's very careful and brilliant. and,
Right.
like, yeah.
Playing out on back of heads.
Yeah.
In the case of many of the surfing scenes.
Right, or very far away.
Yeah, well, yeah, you tried fucking surfing.
No.
Keanu never surfed in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swayze had like a couple times, but Swayze liked to skydive, so
Yeah.
he did that shit.
And you can tell, like, 'cause
They
you can
had to
see
stop him at a certain point.
Swayze's
Yeah.
face in the
Yes.
skydiving, whereas Keanu, it's like far away or really,
Right.
really close.
I mean, Keanu did some of it. Like he did the jump, which is I
Really?
feel like the crucial stunt,
Sure.
which is so fucking good.
Yeah.
I think that's like a top 10 stunt of all time is him jumping out of the plane.
I agree.
The copter, whatever.
Well, we'll
it
get
is.
to that.
yeah.
But Swayze, he loved it so much. I think they had to stop him. Like there was some sort of like intervention from his producers or managers who were like, "You're going to hurt yourself."
Now, have either of you folks seen the remake?
No,
No.
you like it.
I don't.
Well, you said the cinematography was good, and I got
It is.
mad at you for like 2 weeks about it.
It is. It's very true.
Yeah. Well, I
It
don't
just
want to
feels
talk
like
about
if
it.
you were like, hey, that person who cut off your sister's face and started wearing it, have you gotten coffee with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Point Break, the sequel. I mean, the remake.
Yes.
Edgar Ramirez is the Swayze, right?
Correct.
Who You tell me who plays Reeves.
Luke Bracey. I know that answer.
Who the fuck is Luke Bracey?
Are you ready for this?
No, I'm not ready. I'll never be ready.
He played Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe 2 Retaliation.
He replaced Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Okay, once Cobra Commander is fully under the mask and you don't see his face, and I think they dubbed over the voice. He was the physical performer for Cobra Commander.
Right.
And then he got to replace Keanu Reeves. That was his next movie.
Not okay.
I think he did a Nicholas Sparks film too. He's like, fine. He's like a plank of wood. But
apparently he was in Hacksaw Ridge, but all of the sort of background soldiers in that one kind of blend together.
He's an Australian dude. He's a handsome Australian dude.
Sure.
He's like a fourth, Hemsworth.
It's like a seventh Hemsworth.
Sure.
He was in The Best of Me. That's the Sparks you're
right.
talking about. I think he was young Marsden in that.
Right. And a big thing that happened was that was supposed to be Paul Walker, and Paul Walker died, but they'd already cast Bracey to play young Paul Walker, and they're vaguely
he looks
similar.
more like Paul Walker.
Looks
than
nothing
he looks
like
James
Marsden.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
but the interesting counterpoint is that the Point Break remake was directed by a cinematographer.
Sure,
so it's
right.
just
It
a
looks
fucking.
good, right.
If you cut it down to 45 minutes of IMAX stunt photography, it'd be the best movie ever made.
Well,
because the shit in it is
I'm
unbelievable.
sure it looks good. You mean it would be a very good looking movie?
It'd be an incredible piece of film to have.
Be a nice art film of waves.
We all know what the
Surfing.
real Point Break remake is.
Fast and the Furious.
Yes, it came out in 2001. It's
Right.
called The Fast and the Furious. It's basically a carbon copy of this movie, and it's great.
I just want to set up those two pillars as counterpoints that I might reference again as we go through this movie, because the things this movie gets right, and we know I love the Fast and Furious franchise, but I hadn't seen this movie maybe since I was 14 on cable.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And I've rewatched the original Fast and Furious too many times since then.
Yeah.
And so I had forgotten how much beat per beat it really follows the original
Fast
Fast and Furious.
just rips this off.
Wholesale.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
the structure of it, not obviously everything about it, but
But even the basic character dynamics. I mean, it's
and
so
the fact
similar.
that there's a raid halfway through where Walker has to then be a cop again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a lot of and then the
has
ending,
the same
obviously,
beats in the same order in the same timing. Yeah,
except
the
Vin
exact same
Diesel's
ending.
doesn't die, but
But he lets him get away. He lets him
get
drive
away.
away. Right? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Except in Point Break, when he lets him get away, you get it more because he's like, well, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Swayze needs to suffer more than Diesel needs to suffer. Swayze's
Yes.
a little scarier in this movie than Diesel is,
Which is the thing I love about this movie.
Right. Me too.
But also, talk about a good decision. Could you imagine if they ended the original Fast and Furious with Vin Diesel driving off into the middle of a wave?
Yeah. Or even
they weren't able to
driving
make
off a
9 more
cliff
of
or
them?
whatever.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
right.
Well, it doesn't. They could bring him back.
Sure.
They fucking bring everyone back in those
Sure.
movies.
But that's a movie that apes all the major story beats of Point Break, but doesn't execute them with the same level of style and finesse because Rob Cohen is no Catherine Bigelow.
No.
And then
It's not a
Point Break,
well-directed movie.
the remake, takes the exact same basic plot details and amps the stunts, and the stunt shit's great, and none of the character stuff works
Doesn't
whatsoever.
it have more than surfing though? Do they do other extreme
That's the thing.
sports?
Okay,
Oh,
right.
God.
But they fuck up all the core elements of what makes the story interesting, which is they don't want to make Edgar Ramirez scary. They want to make him readable. So he's a
Right.
Robin
Oh.
Hood figure.
Yeah.
He steals money but gives it back to the people.
Oh,
'cause
no,
he's
no.
not
What's so
You
the
can't
clever
money.
do
about
that.
Swayze is a Hollywood hero right now, right? This
Yes.
is the last good movie he ever made, which is nuts.
After an incredible run.
after a sort of brief but intense run
Where
of
he was
stardom.
directly tapped into the zeitgeist and everything he did
and then
somehow
after this,
had
it's
cultural
gone.
impact. Right.
Never makes a hit movie again.
Which is so weird.
Which is weird because this is his best performance. And he's a
showing-
monster in it. Sorry.
I'm
Karen.
showing my cards here, but I really liked him in Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything.
You know what?
Julie
I take it
Newmar.
back. And that was
So,
actually a
like-
quasi hit. That was actually, that's the one thing he makes that's
Credit
a
where credit's
hit
due.
after this.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
gets a Golden Globe nomination.
Yeah.
Right.
But after
But that
I
was
mean,
him having to do the you never imagine Patrick Swayze doing this performance.
Let me just do Swayze really fast, please.
I have thoughts on
I'm
that.
begging
Okay.
you. So I feel like his first big hit is Red Dawn
Mm-hmm.
in '84, but that's he's a young guy.
You
Then
don't know
he's-
if he's going to end up being anything.
Right. Then he's
Right.
in North and South, which was this very big hit miniseries about the
Okay.
Civil War that launched him to fame.
Mhm.
And then that's in 85, 86. And he's in Youngblood, which I've actually never seen.
Me neither.
And then he's Dirty Dancing in 87.
Which
Right.
I love. Was obsessed with as a child.
And then Steel Dawn and Tiger Warsaw, whatever. But then 89 Roadhouse, 90 Ghost, 91 Point Break.
Yeah.
And then that's all. He's doing great. I mean, Dirty Dancing and Ghost are both movies that you would not think would be basically the highest grosser of their year, and they
Right.
end up being that.
Right. And that's the other crazy thing about him is not to be binary about it, but but he had like 2 massive female-focused movies and 2 massive male-focused movies.
Right.
And so he kind of set himself
He's
up
straddling every...
in this like Channing Tatum way where it was like, you know, usually you kind of get one or the other, or even if like, oh, you're a sex symbol, you're more of like a dude's dude action star or romantic lead, you know?
So it's interesting that you bring up like Channing Tatum comparison because I don't care about most celebrities, but when Patrick Swayze died, I was like gutted. It was very hard for me.
He died young too.
Yeah.
And it was very fast.
And he was by all accounts like one of the good ones. Like all the stories were always like he was the nicest guy in Hollywood. Right. Yeah.
Like one of the things that I love about him is that he was like a very masculine guy who also aggressively embraced his femininity. And he was a dancer and he was super into that.
Absolutely.
And
and Tu Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Right.
Exactly. I think he was like very comfortable with all that stuff. So when you say like, I mean, it was pitched as like, can you believe the Roadhouse dude is
I think even more just him doing a comedy, like an out-and-out comedy like that, you know? And it's a different style of performance than he usually does. But that certainly has been an element of his career success up until that point.
I just want to give you after this movie.
Sure,
though.
yes.
So 92, he makes City of Joy with Roland Jaffe, which is like an Oscar play that's a huge bomb. Just about like a white guy in like the Indian slums or something. It's fucking
I feel like there's like a kid peeing on him in the trailer or something.
That sounds plausible. Then he makes Fatherhood, which is some kind of like family comedy where he's like, the poster's him in a leather jacket with his family, but he's standing at like a usual a lineup.
Okay.
Then he makes the Unbelievable Adventures of Pecos Bill in 95.
Which was retitled Tall Tale.
Yes.
A movie I saw in theaters opening weekend.
It was a family movie, right? I've never seen it. He's not in it much, right?
No, he's the lead.
But I thought it was like that they're trying to find him or something. Like, isn't he
he's a big part of it.
Okay.
I was weirdly obsessed with the Pecos Bill lore when I was a child.
I gotta say, I am not.
I fucking loved Pecos Bill for whatever fucking reason.
Don't even know who he is.
That's a baby Nick Stahl.
Right. That movie is like Monster Squad, and Nick Stahl needs to unite the tall tales, like the urban legend folk heroes. And it's John Henry, Pecos Bill, and Paul Bunyan. And Oliver Platt is Paul Bunyan. I forget who's John Henry, and he's Pecos Bill.
Roger Aaron Brown is John Henry.
I think it's like William H. Macy's first movie, too. It's got a weird cast to it.
William H. Macy plays a railroad magnate.
Yeah. But it's
Catherine O'Hara plays Calamity Jane.
Yes.
Anyway, I just want to keep going. And then Tu Wong Fu is 95.
But that was a big flop. That movie was a humongous flop.
Yeah.
Tu Wong Fu is 95. 3 Wishes, which is like another family movie. He made all
which
these
is the Martin
family
Short,
movies.
Mara Wilson
that's
movie?
A Simple Wish.
Right. What's 3 Wishes?
I don't know. Some piece of shit movie he made. Then that's 95. He doesn't make a movie for 3 years.
Jeez.
Then he makes Black Dog in 98, which is like a shitty thriller.
I've never heard of any of these.
Did he do a Whoopi Goldberg comedy?
That sounds right. But
right.
What would
I
it
remember
have been?
him and Whoopi on a video box together.
Are you talking about Ghost?
Well, he was in Ghost.
I know he was in
obviously.
Ghost, but I feel like I remember some. Maybe I just created it in my mind.
Ghost 2.
Yeah, they could have done a Ghost too.
I like imagine some like video box where it's the two of them in front of a white background with their arms around each other. Like it looks like a Sears
I just
family
don't know what
portrait.
it is.
I don't know.
And now I can't
and
think
if
of
I
what it
Google
is.
Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg, I'm just going to get Ghost.
Right.
I'll see if I can find that later. But then
Okay.
it's just interesting to me. Like, yeah, I tell you a movie like Black Dog. He made Point Break. Like, why didn't he ever have a huge hit again? Like,
it's weird.
10 years later is Donnie Darko, which is like when he's popping up in a movie and you're like, oh shit, Swayze.
When
and
he
he's pretty
essentially
good in
becomes
that.
like a Travolta career revival.
Yeah,
project.
we're like, oh yeah,
So
except
good
like
now.
he's good, but he's playing such a villainous character
Right.
and it's a small role, but he is good. And then like it kind of never goes anywhere.
But before we started recording, we were just talking about Channing Tatum and said like that guy needs a hit. And 5 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it was, when he had his breakout summer, it felt like this guy has cracked the code.
He's a movie star, right?
Like he had this year where he had like a couple action movies and a Nicholas Sparks film, or The Vow wasn't technically
we've talked about it,
but like you know, a weepy romance drama. He had Magic Mike, he had G.I. Joe, he had 21 Jump Street. It was like this guy established himself well with every possible audience in one summer, and he's just like set.
Yeah,
because he was not afraid to embrace his feminine side and appealed directly to that audience and wasn't worried about alienating like the bros, you know? It had something for everyone. Like Channing was something for everyone. And since then has done like a weird balance of work.
I mean, he's trying, but Channing Tatum is not a movie star, is my argument. Like, or they're certainly not the kind of guy who's going to open a movie for you.
Right, but for like a pocket
I
there,
know,
it
but
felt like
it's
he was
not
the
happening.
one short
Like White
thing.
House Down didn't happen. Logan Lucky didn't happen. These movies are not happening. Even Magic Mike
good
XXL was a
leading
bomb.
man, though.
Quasi bomb. Now,
what disappointment in relation to the first one.
Right.
So, but Swayze should have kept going. Like, it should have just been straight heat.
Now, Keanu.
Yeah.
What we gotta get on the record. Keanu never been in an action movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And
was this his first one?
This is his first action movie, and Catherine Bigelow insists on him.
Yeah.
Because I think they wanted Depp. I think they wanted Johnny
sense.
Depp.
That would make sense.
And she was like, no. Keanu Reeves. And they were like, the Bill and Ted guy who was in Parenthood?
Yeah.
That's your guy?
Those are my two references for him prior to this movie.
Those are his
And-
two big movies. I mean, he
Movies
had
I love.
made a lot of movies because he has like little roles in
Right.
a lot of movies. But like, you know, Bill and Ted is 89. Parenthood is 89.
Yeah.
I Love You to Death is 90.
When is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey?
91, same year as this. As is My Own Private Idaho. His two arguably best
Which is
performances.
he's in River's Edge?
River's Edge is
Right.
in 86.
Okay.
That's a good movie.
Yeah. So that was like his young angst drama. Then he does the two big comedies where he
Right.
establishes a persona that everyone can easily mock.
Right.
Of
Yeah,
like-
he's like the, you know,
Right.
right? Like that's his thing.
Right.
And like, because we think of Keanu, obviously we think of that, but we also think of Point Break and
Yeah.
Speed and The Matrix.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's the action guy. But this is the movie where Bigelow is like, I can see, like, this guy's perfect to play a quarterback, a former
Sure.
quarterback.
Right.
Like, Keanu's not small, but he's not exactly,
He's not broad, certainly.
no, like, I mean,
it-
quarterbacks are supposed to be smaller.
It's brilliant casting that like saves the movie in
I
a
think
lot of
so.
ways.
Yes.
But I also think Keanu's career is so fascinating because he's always had this pattern of like he has something that hits really big in the zeitgeist and then he makes a couple really big mistakes. Everyone counts him out
and he's
then
like,
he
fuck
comes
it,
back.
I'm not doing it anymore. And then he finds the new thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's had more second chances, but every time it's like you earned this. Like
Yeah.
right. You reminded everyone what you're capable of doing well.
He's unkillable.
Right, because
Yeah,
I think
don't ever tell me Keanu's out again, right? Like that's
47
the lesson
Ronin,
we've
everyone
learned.
was like
That's the thing.
100% done, cooked, over.
After 47 Ronin, and you know, and let's remember, like it was really like Day the Earth Stood Still 2, 40, like that
Right,
sort of
yeah.
like string of nothing from
Right.
him. People were like, all right, I guess he's just done.
He's
And
down
we're
for
not
the
going
count,
to talk
right.
about it. And yeah, man.
But
Don't
that
fucking
happened
count him
between Speed and Matrix, you know?
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, Matrix was definitely about like he's back. It's a
Right.
rebirth.
That happened between Point Break and Speed, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a couple disastrous performances there, like Dracula, which I'd say like almost killed his career
Well,
entirely.
his 91
Yeah.
is great because he's in My Own Private Idaho, which he's so good in. But
Yeah.
yeah, then 92 is Dracula, which he's horrible in. No offense,
Horrific.
Keanu.
I mean, yeah, we all love
He's horrible
Keanu on
in
this
that movie.
podcast. That's one of
Yeah.
the worst performances in any major film from a real actor.
93 is Much Ado About Nothing, which he's fine in, I guess.
Sure.
He's sort of.
But this
whatever.
is him punching a little outside
Little
of his
Buddha,
zone. Right.
Freak. Well, he's not
But I
really
think the other thing that's interesting is he always kind of like does these things that are sort of like taken seriously and then become a joke over time.
Right.
Where it's like, yeah, you know, like The Matrix, it was like really cool. And then after a few years, it's like, come on. Like,
Sure.
that's a joke. And then now he's back in John Wick and like, that's
Right.
really serious. And who knows what jokes we'll make about it in 5
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
John Wick. Well, yeah, they might run John Wick into the ground, but
Yeah.
John Wick 2 is great.
Yeah.
John Wick 3 is coming out in the summer. Did you see that?
I saw that.
They're making it a tentpole, which I'm a little
Wow.
worried about because I feel like that's a perfect like January movie.
But I'll say, I saw like John Wick 1 opening day with an audience that was like snickering, but they were like, does this movie know what it's doing? Like that
Sure.
kind of like a really irritating, condescending kind of like laughter at a movie
Interesting.
that's clearly heightened and knows, you know,
Yeah.
like Point Break. I mean, there's
Yeah.
different types of movies, but movies that know what they're doing. I saw John Wick 2 opening day, and when John Wick first appeared on screen, the entire audience burst
Oh
into
no,
applause.
he's a legend. That's funny though because
I've
I
never
saw
seen that before. It was like Indiana Jones returning.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Don't set him off.
Don't set him off.
No, but I saw. That's funny because I saw John Wick with an audience that was clearly going in being like it was like half full, and we were like,
Yeah.
what is Keanu? I don't know
Right.
what is this. And
By the end.
by 30 minutes in, they were all in.
Yeah.
The bit where Michael Nyquist says
Fuck.
like, oh no, oh, he just says oh.
Yes.
Where it's like John Leguizamo's like he killed he killed John Wick's dog and stole his car, and he just goes oh, and the audience just went ah, like it was great. That was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had.
Can I offer my key thesis on why Keanu's casting is perfect in this movie?
Yes, please.
Because it's outlined by the couple of movies he did right after this. He was really trying to push his persona. Keanu like started out as a stage actor, right,
Sure.
in Canada, and wanted to be seen as a serious actor, and then got this reputation for being this kind of like airhead, like
pretty boy.
right, pretty boy kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he really was like, I want to do serious parts. Let me do a Shakespeare, you know, let me be in Dracula. And he's too contemporary, right? He just
Yeah.
doesn't
Right.
fit into these zones at all.
He can't do accents, so he
At
just always sounds like Keanu, and I think that really throws people off.
And I think he has a very specific energy that you have to harness.
Yeah, he's like
Yeah.
Dane DeHaan.
Right. He's a very contextual actor.
I
Like
was trying to get your goat there. Go on.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I think Dane DeHaan is very much like Keanu.
Mhm.
I think the difference between Dane DeHaan and Keanu is that Valerian shows that Dane DeHaan can't do Keanu action movie.
I disagree, but we'll get to Valerian.
But I think Dane DeHaan is like has been
They're similar where you have to find the right context.
100%.
Yeah.
I've seen
exactly.
Dane DeHaan be phenomenal in 5 movies and disastrous in 5 other movies.
Sure.
You know, and the ones where he's good, I don't think it's an accident. I just think it's like you need to know where to place him.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
because I love Keanu to death. He's bad in some movies.
He's terrible in some
he's
movies.
misused.
But also when Keanu's good, he's capable of doing things that no one else can do. He's got a very specific
I
screen
agree.
power, and he's this incredibly physical actor. And it's not just like, you know, he's always, I think we've said this before about him, but when people go like, you do a lot of your own stunts, he always goes like, I don't do stunts. Stuntmen do stunts. I
Right,
do
he's-
physical acting.
Right. He's very into the role and the power of the stuntman.
Right.
Yes.
Which is why the one movie he directed is like a martial arts movie.
Yeah, man. Good movie.
But his whole thing is he's just really good at conveying a lot through body language and sort of the ramp up, the tension before the stunts start, which is what makes an action star. Like how
Yeah.
well you can like get the audience primed for what a stuntman is then going to do in the next shot on the back of your head.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But this movie is like right in that peak of him trying to be like, I want to be seen as a serious adult in movies and be taken more seriously. And that's totally what Johnny Utah is going through. Like Johnny Utah's this broken guy who's like bloom
Literally.
off the rose, right? He should have gone pro.
Sure.
He didn't.
He fucked up his knee.
Right. You get the sense that he was like,
He was all conference in Ohio State.
well, you know what this guy's life was. He was the cutest boy in high school.
Sure.
He was high school quarterback.
Yeah,
he probably killed it. He was the rare jock that was actually nice to everybody, right?
He did. Well, so actually, a question.
Yeah.
When he gives the speech to Tyler where he's like, I always did what my parents wanted me to do, yada, 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 and then they died. Obviously, they didn't die, but
Right.
how much of that do you think is supposed to be real?
I think most of
what
it,
is
most
right?
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the golden boy.
Yeah.
And then instead of his parents died, he blew out his knees. And he was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, what do I do with my life now? Right.
Right. But I think that is his psychological makeup. And I think he's had all this pressure his entire life and has been told that he's great and all of that, but really worked hard to achieve it. And then his life is totally derailed. The thing he thought, the path he was on. And it's almost like those guys who like, rather than peak in high school and spend the rest of his life bemoaning what he could have been,
Yeah.
he tries to find the thing he can do instead.
Well, and I think he also tries to find a father figure.
Yes.
Like-
100%.
Sure. That's what Bodhi is, right?
Right. Well, and potentially Angela. Like, I think somebody was asking me if I thought this movie was homoerotic, and I don't.
I don't either.
I
I
think
think that's a
it's-
mischaracterization.
I think it's bromantic.
Yeah. It's
And
not,
I think it's
there's the one
male-
scene where they're
female
wrestling
gazing.
around with each other on the sand. But yeah, no, it's not exactly.
well,
It's only homoerotic in that you're already saying the female gaze. Like it is
Yeah.
an erotic movie about
it's
men.
an erotic movie about
and it is
pretty
mostly
much.
obviously about men interacting with other men.
I also think the distinction I would make is that I think it's a very intimate movie.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think in movies where men are intimate with each other, people go like, oh, it's homoerotic because you're not used to seeing men having anything more than like a back pat, like,
Yeah.
good work out there, buddy, kind of like relationship. You
But
know?
it's really about like father-son relationships.
Yes.
But we don't understand intimate father-son relationships.
Right. So it feels like, well, this is the way. Like, why are men acting like this? Do they want to fuck each other? You know?
Right. I get what you guys are saying.
There's
I
a
just-
lot of
I
them
can
looking at
see
each
the-
other and being like, I like you, man, you know?
Right. But there's also, I mean, the crucial moment here
Yeah.
in this movie is that he jumps out of the plane to grab Bodhi
Sure.
and
Yeah.
then can't kill him.
Right. But I think, yes.
And yeah, you know,
Well-
there's a dynamic between
And
the
it's a
two
love
of them.
story.
that
It is a movie
is-
about two guys who love each other,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
in a purely sexual sense. You
but
know,
it's
Or
also a
sexual
very
sense
erotic
at all.
movie.
right.
I think it's
Right,
an
so-
erotic
so
I
I
think
mean-
it's an erotic film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So I feel like it's this conflation, and you kind of touched on it, that
Yeah.
A, we're not used to seeing men being objectified,
Right.
and B, we're not used to seeing men being intimate.
Right.
So that this movie does both it's like, oh, well, it's gay. And it's like, no, it's a woman who's objectifying men.
Right.
And also unveiling their intimacy that is not sexual.
Right. And I think with a male director, you either would have had that intimacy couched with some level of like, arm's length humor or whatever, or they would push it even further and genuinely make it homoerotic. Like that would be the gag,
Right.
Yeah.
in a weird way.
I don't know. I could see, but I like what you guys are saying. I just don't think a movie has to be ridiculously homoerotic like Top Gun or whatever.
I agree with that.
To, have a sort of, it's a romantic. I think there is a romantic dynamic between Bodhi and Johnny because Bodhi is seducing Johnny into a life. You know? But I like the father-son angle too.
Yeah, I mean, but romance is not necessarily eroticism.
Exactly. That's the distinction is like, I think Top Gun is sexual and this is romantic.
Yes.
What Top Gun is about ego, right? And how man's ego is man's sex. Like that's what that movie is about. And how if you put them all together in a little ring, like they're all just going to start bumping around.
Right.
And like Lori Petty, Ben, I want to bring you in now because I feel like you have some thoughts about
Producer
Lori
Ben?
Petty. Yes.
Ben Deucer?
No, maybe
Producer
not.
Ben?
Tank Girl's in this movie.
Poet Laureate? The Haas?
Oh, yeah.
The Peeper?
Go on.
Tiebreaker?
Yeah.
Birthday Benny? Dirtbag Benny?
Right.
The Fuckmaster?
Yeah.
The Meat Lover? The Fart Detective?
Yes.
Not Professor Crispin?
No, don't call me that.
Graduate to certain titles of the course of different miniseries?
Yep.
Producer Ben Kenobi? Kylo Ben? Ben Tate?
Yeah.
Say Bennything?
Yes.
Ben Night Shyamalan?
Yep.
Ailey Benz with dollar sign?
That's true.
Warhaz?
Yeah.
Producer Ben?
Wait, Producer Bane.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You didn't know that was Tank Girl?
I didn't realize that was Tank Girl.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Lori Petty for a second.
I do too.
She was like the 90s girl.
For her to
Yeah.
do,
Early 90s girl.
for her to do Point Break and then League of Their Own
League of
and
Their Own.
back-to-back years should have been like, she should have had a humongous career.
But she's such a specific type.
Right.
She's a good actress, but she's her thing. She's got her thing. She's got a great sort of attitude.
Punk like.
Exactly.
I also don't think it's coincidental that her two big performances both came from female directors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I think she's exactly the kind of actress that a male director wouldn't necessarily hire.
Three
For
good
this movie.
performances.
What's the
Yeah,
third?
no,
Tank
absolutely.
Tank Girl, which is also directed by a woman.
But was a big flop.
Well, sure,
That's the
but
one
she's good
qualification I'm
in
making.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
but those three movies were like her three big films.
She's
that were all
also
female
in Free
directors.
Willy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's pretty good. In Free Willy.
Everyone's good in that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like a poorly acted film.
So I want to argue that I think that Lori Petty's character is the moral center of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Because
I think so.
Well, because
Go on. Sorry.
I think there are reads that you could make of this movie, and I'm sure there are dudes who watch this movie and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is amazing. I want to be like Bodhi. I want this," or like who idolize like a lot of the masculine qualities. But I think it's a movie that's very nihilistic that is both celebrating and also condemning masculinity. And I think Johnny Utah is not the hero of the movie.
No.
Johnny Utah is a dude who is searching for a father figure, can't find it in the police force, can't find it in this surfing cult leader.
He consistently makes very poor decisions
Yeah.
throughout this movie.
Like,
Yeah,
kind
but-
of ends at a standstill where he's like, well, I'm not going to like align with the cops.
I'm not going to be a cop.
But
Right.
I'm not going to, I'm going to let Bodhi kill himself. I'm not going to save him. But like the only person who, like Lori Petty, Tyler, like she is very upset about being lied to. And like she is into surfing, but she's not, you don't get any sense that she is even aware of the bank robbing. She just loves the purity of being in nature. And I think, it's telling to me that in the last scene, he's like, yeah, I still surf every day.
Yes.
Like it's about surfing being this powerful thing that gets perverted by Bodhi. And
It does, right. And even though Bodhi doesn't... Bodhi knows it's getting perverted. He just won't admit it. Like even near the end of the movie, he's like, "I'm sorry. I mean, what's the fucking Lee Turgensen character called? Rosie. Rosie's a wild man. Like I didn't mean to. Like he's still trying to like cover his ass about
it's
it.
sort of like bad Buddhism too, a little bit.
Right. Like
Because the
fucked up
name
90s
Bodhi is
spirituality.
based on Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Oh.
Which is like a term in Buddhism for someone who's like sort of on their way to being enlightened, like a Buddha,
like
Which-
on the sort of path.
on the
Yes,
path,
yes.
exactly.
ties in nicely to another Keanu performance as Siddhartha in Little Buddha.
Yes.
Little Buddha. Not a bad performance in a kind
An
of a bad
okay movie.
But I think there's also something to, there is no attempt, and I think this is what's great about the casting of Lori Petty, who is like a very steely actress with a very odd energy because she sounds like a rugrat.
Yeah, she's got a funny voice.
Right.
Yeah, she does. She sounds like Chucky Finster.
Right. And she's very slight, but she has this like anger to her that I think those three really good performances tapped into. And I think she's very high status in this movie. Yeah. Like she always
wins the football game.
Right. And she's the intellectual superior of everyone she's talking to in every scene.
But I want to get back to what Lux was saying about just for a second, because I do feel like, this movie has one crucial action sequence in the middle, right? That is a badass action sequence where tons of people get shot. There's a lawnmower. A naked girl beats the shit out of Johnny Utah.
Yes.
But it is a pointless expression of like police, coolness. Because it just turns out it's like, no, you fucking idiots. Like Sizemore was here the whole time, and it was just you just fucked it up, and now we won't find out who's
right.
And it's like an awesome sequence, perfectly directed. That's so cool, to watch. And then at the end, it's like, well, that was completely worthless.
Right.
Like what a waste of all our masculine energy.
And it's also interesting that whole thing is literally set off by Keanu getting punched on a surfboard.
Yes, that's
that is
right.
like he gets punched on a surfboard, and then he's like, "This dude is bad."
It's got to be these guys.
Driven.
And Anthony Kiedis, I mean, he's got a bad look in this movie. It takes one look at Anthony Kiedis, and he's like, this guy has to be LBJ or whatever.
Right. I mean, he does have he should be arrested for that haircut.
Oh boy,
that is an arrestable offense. The Keanu thing here is that like he is trying so hard to be a good cop, which uses the earnest energy he had in this time period of like really wanting to be a better actor or a more diverse actor or whatever it is. And also the fact that there's something so gentle about Keanu.
Yeah.
Like even when he's yelling, there's like this serenity to him, which I think is what other people like when he's miscast reads as spaciness.
Sure.
Or a vacancy. It's that he's very internalized.
Yeah. He's very zen.
He's very zen. So I just love that thing. And then the other thing is he actually, like most undercover sting operation, we have to infiltrate this world movies. You're like, they would never buy this guy. They would suss him out as a cop immediately.
But
and Keanu shows up,
you get it,
and you're like, of course he fits into this. And the Gary Busey counterpoint is like, when Gary Busey's at the beach wearing the shirt with the sunglasses, you're like, well, this is why he could never crack the case, because he looks like a fucking narc. He's Gary Busey.
Oh my
like, even when he's like, those kids stole my radio. It's like...
Busey's so good in this.
So good.
The thing that I love about the Busey character is I think in a lesser movie, it would be like, not even just Busey was right all the time, but like Busey cracks the case and he's just been like undersold. And in this, it's like, no, he sucks.
He sucks.
He's like, he fucking blows the steak out because of his breeding Marmaduke.
And he's and he's fundamentally the wrong person for the case. Do you know who plays the
who plays in the remake? Who plays that?
Ray Winstone.
I could see that. Is he good?
Well, but he's just bad. The problem is he's just too angry. Like he's doing surly Ray Winstone. Yeah. Part of what's great in this is that like Gary Busey like thinks he's the fun cop. Yeah. Like he thinks he's the star of his own movie.
Yes.
He thinks this is his story.
Right. Yes, I agree.
Oh, there's one. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going back a little bit. Sorry, just to the stakeout scene because you mentioned the naked lady, and I think that both the naked lady and the lady in lingerie are. Like, I mean, was there a studio note that was like, put some naked women in here?
I don't think so. I think Bigelow wants a naked woman to beat the shit out of Keanu Reeves. You don't think so? She beats the shit out of him. He doesn't land a punch on her. She is naked. She knocks him to the ground. He gets back up. She knocks him down again.
That's a good point.
There is no ambiguity to what happens to Johnny Utah in that scene.
Because I just got distracted.
I feel very strongly about this.
I got distracted by the shower spying, but... You do make a good point that there's like these women are taking him down.
Yeah. Johnny Utah doesn't win a single fight in this movie.
He's really bad at fighting.
He's bad at it. He's good at shooting his gun in the opening montage where he's and into the air.
Yeah.
But he fights the surfer guys, and it's sort of the sort of decoy surfer guys.
Yeah.
And at first it looks like he's doing okay. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, and then they beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
In the stakeout, he fights a naked woman who kicks his ass.
Yeah.
And then when he fights Bodhi, he never wins that either.
Absolutely
like he's not.
Yeah.
This is not a movie where like Johnny Utah has like got the skills to solve all of this.
Right.
And he fucks up at the bank robbery.
Yes.
Oh,
He doesn't do. He's no help.
Right.
People die.
Yeah.
He's just shitty.
He's really shitty.
Yeah. I love it though.
No, that's it's good that he's shitty.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a Law and Order movie. It's like, oh yeah, cops are fucked up.
Yeah.
All these guys are assholes.
He's also 25.
Yeah, he's young, dumb, and full of cum. He's a blue flame
right.
special. He takes the skin off chicken.
He eats the donuts.
Yeah.
He eats the donut.
Yeah.
He takes the skin off the chicken, but he eats the donut.
He does eat the donut. John C. McGinley doesn't like that.
That's the Scrubs dude, right?
Yeah.
That guy is so good at being just like a dick who's
Yeah,
mad.
like a pencil, like a
Yeah.
living pencil with glasses. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like
There's
that.
I remember seeing some interview with John C. McGinley where he said when he got the script for Scrubs to audition, in parentheses it said, "Imagine a John C. McGinley type."
Sure. Yeah, right.
And he was like, "Did they offer this to me?" And it was like, "No, it's just like an open audition." And he had to go through like 7 rounds of it. And he kept on being like,
that's
"Can't you
amazing.
guys? You wrote it."
He should be. Yeah, I mean, obviously he had Scrubs, and I'm sure that set him for life. But
And
like,
Delroy Lindo plays this part in the remake, which, like, once again, Ray Winstone, Delroy Lindo,
Good
great
actors.
actors, but minus that like comedic edge.
Yeah.
I
you
mean,
know?
you're talking about 2 great performances, Busey and McGinley, that are, you know, people are going to think about when you're
Right.
playing the role. So it's hard to really,
Right.
you know, beat them, especially if you're in a shit
Sure,
movie.
but also, a self-serious movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the plot of this movie is that there are bank robbers,
Right.
the ex-presidents,
Yeah.
who
Which is
rob
also
banks,
so good.
who are good.
Fucking masks.
The
just-
masks are great.
Unbelievable.
And just like the spiel, like, just the scene where they're getting ready in the car,
Mhm.
like all the detail on that, just like shot of the abs, pulling on the gloves, so good.
And the fact that they stay in character too. The
Yeah.
fact that they
Yes.
each like
So
have
they all
their,
have their
like,
impressions that they do.
right.
Except for Carter, he doesn't do much.
But
Yeah.
good bit commitment.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a great bit.
Carter, there was that scene where they cut to Carter when everyone else is like loading the money into the bag and he's just farming peanuts. He's planting peanuts in the dirt outside the bank.
Putting on a sweater.
Giving a sermon.
I just Google report. Ben just Googled bank robberies 2017. Just giving you a Google report right now. That's a new segment on the
How
show.
many Reagan
where
masks
I tell you
were
what Ben's
involved?
Googling.
I just am interested to see if people are still robbing banks.
Well,
it does
we're-
seem like a bad idea.
Yes.
Robbing a
It seems
bank.
like it's really hard now.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you go into a bank, you're like, nobody has any money. Like, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess they have their little cash registers, but it's not like these days you want to get money out. They like seems to like shoot out of a slot like from somewhere far away.
Yes. Yes, which is one of the things I liked a lot about Logan Lucky is like, oh, this is a very smart place to rob.
Yes, yeah, totally. As
And-
long as you can
right.
make a gummy bear bomb.
Have
Did you
seen
like that
Logan
movie?
Lucky?
I haven't seen Logan Lucky,
I loved
although
it.
thinking
It's
about the
great.
masks, I remember one of my favorite bits in Baby Driver is when they're supposed to get the Mike Myers mask
Yes.
and he shows up with Austin Powers mask.
Yeah, that's a great bit in Baby Driver.
That's my favorite gag.
That's outrageous. That's your favorite gag. I'll never forgive
Not the
you
one that you predicted would
for
be my
not
favorite
liking
gag.
the great gag in Baby Driver.
But there are 2 things. Like one, watching this movie, I was like, why don't people use masks in films more?
Yeah.
And so often I feel like when you have masked characters, people do the wrong thing, which is whether it's because they're directed that way or the actors have that instinct, which is to over physicalize everything to make up for the fact that your face is invisible. But this movie, the fact that he's just moving normally and he's stuck with this one static, like grinning expression is unbelievable.
I think it takes a really good actor to pull off a mask. Like
I agree with that.
one
Yeah,
of
that's
my,
true.
One
It's
of my
hard.
problems with Ant-Man is that I don't think Paul Rudd is a good voice actor. So every time he's in the Ant-Man suit, it feels like a poorly voiced video game to me.
Paul Rudd's also a really good face actor.
Right,
You're
like,
losing a lot if you
it's
cut
like
out his
you
face.
lose
Yeah.
his
My
charm.
only counter to that is I agree with you on Ant-Man. I do think he's better at it in Civil War.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
maybe
He
there's
gets
some
better.
sort of
Yeah.
like progression that
There
he's
might be a
making,
learning
or
curve.
maybe they just had to fucking rush Ant-Man, which is more my guess.
Yeah.
Sure.
They had to do that
Like,
shit fast.
Go to voice actor school.
Yeah, right. Come on, Red. Just see. Here's a microphone. We'll Skype you in. Just say your Ant-Man lines.
Right. But I also think like it's weird when you think about like, you know, both times that Fox has tried to do Fantastic Four, there was this like reticence to putting Doctor Doom in the full mask for
Yeah.
too much of the movie.
Right.
Because they were like, well, but then you can't see the guy's face. And it's like,
which is just fine. Then fucking cast a nobody then.
Right,
Because
but
why
like-
are you casting a star you want to see?
like massive movie star Julian McMahon.
Julian McMahon.
Okay, I'm sorry. But I feel like a good actor with a well-designed mask would be the scariest fucking thing in the world because every time they cut to a close-up of Swayze in the Reagan mask grinning,
great.
it's like terrifying.
Well, that
it's
great
really
shot of his
creepy.
eyes
Right.
is when,
Unbelievable.
in the LA Basin scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
I mean, he's got really expressive eyes, which
Great
helps
eyes.
a lot. And I think she knows how to shoot it, and he's a good enough actor to pull it off. Like his whole spiel.
And he's a very physical actor. He's able to convey a lot with his body, much like Keanu.
And his voice.
Yes. I also think the masterstroke is cutting the slit in his mouth so that when he talks, the mouth moves a little. Right. It has that weird Muppet jaw thing.
Yeah. Oh, I hadn't even noticed that. But yeah, that is key.
Because the other ones don't do that. He's the only one who has to talk extensively.
Right.
But
he
it
yells.
helps.
Everyone else is just, they have their jobs.
Also, I have a question about his gang.
Uh-huh.
Are they actual actors or are they just stuntmen? Because I feel like you see some of them like in the skydiving, like you see
Two
their
of them
faces.
are surfers.
James LeGros.
James LeGros is a real actor, and
right.
he's great in this movie. The other two are just surfers she liked.
Okay. I
And
had a
cats.
feeling that they were probably either surfers or just stuntmen because I was like, they don't actually act.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure you see them doing the physical things.
Yeah.
They don't.
They're just like the dudes who just hang out there.
So yeah, John Philbin and I think the other one's like Bojes Christopher. They're not actors.
Okay.
James LeGros is great in this movie. He really has the California surfer dude thing like on lock. I think.
LeGros,
Roach.
And he's the one who, he's the one who dies on the plane,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
LeGros, the one.
No, I like he dies in midair. That's what I like about it. Because he jumps out and then when he lands, you're like, that guy's dead.
He's the dude who has the knife to like.
That's
Lee
Rosie,
Turgeson.
right,
Lee
yeah.
Turgeson.
Was he the brother on Weird Science, the TV show?
Great question. I mean, I think of him as
Bill Paxton?
He's from Oz. I mean, I feel like that's his biggest. He's a Beecher in Oz. But let's see. Was he on Weird?
While we're doing that, I will say
Ben nailed that.
one other weird, very, very minor. The kid in the surfing shop when he goes to buy a surfboard, I had to look up because I was like, I know that guy. He is one of the brothers from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Wow. We are plumbing the depths right now. I don't know. Yeah.
I love that movie. Sorry. That's another amazing 90s movie.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh.
I always get Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead and Serial Mom confused,
Serial
even though
Mom's
they're
good.
very different movies.
Very different.
Yeah. I mean, one is by John Waters and the other is a
by someone
feminist
who
movie.
Right.
Is the seminal feminist movie of the 90s.
Lee Turgeson.
Lean in.
You also.
For teens.
I love how he's just looking at bank robbery reports right now. Lee Turgeson is also in Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2. He's the guy who's like, I love you, and like he can't stop
the guy
saying it once you get
who's
him going.
vomiting in the back of the car during Bohemian Rhapsody.
But I mostly think of him as Beecher in Oz, where he's like a terrifying neo-Nazi.
But you see, like, the opening sequence of this movie, right? Like, this is only coming. She makes 2 movies in between the Loveless and this.
Yeah.
And Loveless is like a very academic semiotics experiment, right?
Sure.
And by this, she's fully figured out how to just like metastasize that into the body of a movie that is like just narratively exciting and enjoyable on a surface level as well. And the opening sequence is just like, I think cross-cutting between these like very serene, like romantic shots of Bodhi surfing and Keanu in the rain shooting at these targets, is like, these are these places of zen for these two guys.
Yeah.
But whereas like Bodhi is actually experiencing something transcendent, Keanu's just getting off on the fact that he's successful.
He's good at it.
Yeah.
Because at the end, the guy gives him the big thumbs up, and it's like, okay, he's still, he didn't peak in high school. The quarterback found a new thing to be great at.
You might say he's getting approval from a father figure.
Right.
So
also, I just love that it begins and ends in the rain.
Yes. All good action movies
water.
are rain like dependent. Yes.
Rain cut with
this
waves
movie was
and
going
then
to be
rain.
this movie was going to be called Johnny Utah.
I'm glad they didn't go with that.
And then it was going to be called Riders on the Storm after the Doors song.
Okay.
And they decided that was a bad idea because it's a Doors song and this movie has nothing to do with the Doors, and so let's forget it. And so then they were like, what's a cool surfing term? They go through their cool, much like in Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, where they're like, what's like a cool train term? And like someone's like, there's a thing called Dark Territory, and they were like, great, that's the title. They were like, they found this term Point Break.
Yeah.
And they were like, perfect. That sounds like a great action movie, even though it's about like a specific like rock outcropping,
Cameron was executive producer on this.
Yeah.
Where was
this movie comes out? Well, actually, I don't want to spoil the box office game. Carry on.
Where was this within their relationship? I always forget what period of time.
Cameron's off making Terminator 2 when she's off making this.
Okay.
And Cameron's fallen in love with Linda Hamilton.
So this is like the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they divorced in 1991 when this movie comes out.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think like pointedly, she makes Blue Steel right before this.
Sure.
And Blue Steel is like a big flop.
89. Yeah, sure. Yes.
Right. And this feels like Cameron going to Fox and being like, I'm telling you, she's fucking capable of doing this.
Yeah.
And her leaving it all on the dance floor because like she's got to have a hit, you know?
And it's so good.
Right. But this
yeah.
feels like a movie where she's like full force, like, I'm going to fucking make this thing work.
Yes.
I
Sure.
want audiences to love this movie.
But this movie was not a huge hit. It was a
No.
decent hit.
It was a solid,
Yeah.
like, it was a double or.
And then it
right.
just sort of quickly, I think,
grew and
became-
grew and grew.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she marries Cameron in 89
Okay.
when Blue Steel's coming out, and
Sure.
she divorces him in 91. So it was not a long relationship, and
Right.
they both made like their biggest movies to date during it. So I don't
Yeah.
know how much time they were spending together.
Sure.
Because if you think about like they're married from 89 to 91, they're probably both shooting in 90. Like, I
Right.
don't know. Like,
Right. And the Gail Ann Hurd marriage doesn't end that long before that, right?
James Cameron's love life is.
It's weird. Yeah.
I mean, because it's like Sharon Williams, 78 to 84, Gail Ann Hurd, 85 to 89. Like we're talking about marriages here.
He stacks them.
Bigelow, 89 to 91. Now Linda Hamilton is 97 to 99, but they
We're
like
together.
they were together.
Because their
They
kids
were together
born
for
before
years,
they got
and
married.
then they
right.
get married and divorce almost immediately. Like
Right.
the marriage is the end of the relationship.
Right.
And then Susie Amos, 2000. So it's like it's always like they always abut each other.
Well, there was like
But then after Susie Amos, that's it. Like she's
Yeah.
the one who's like, go diving. I don't.
Right.
It's fine. We'll figure it out.
surf into the middle of the wave.
Yeah, right.
David Lynch is a guy who has one of those weird ones too, where like I think he was with his script supervisor.
Well, his
his
he had the
longtime
wife who
partner.
he made like Eraserhead with, right? Mary Fisk, is that right?
Right.
But
Didn't she? Right. He had a 20-year relationship where they were never married and they had a child. And then they finally got married and got divorced within like 9 months for irreconcilable differences. Where it just feels like sometimes if couples
Yeah.
wait that long to get married, getting
Oh,
married.
you're talking about Mary Sweeney.
That's what I'm
Yes.
talking about.
His,
Yes.
his editor,
His editor. There we go. Okay.
who I think still works with it. Maybe
I believe
not.
so.
Yeah, she.
But they
does,
were together for a very long time, had a child, didn't get married, got married, and then
immediately
suddenly
divorced.
Right. Right.
Let's get back to Bigelow.
Yes,
Stop
yes.
talking about dudes fucking around.
Sorry.
Oh, wait. So the thing that I was going to tell you, a bit of context
Uh-huh.
that was left out.
Excuse me. I'm a connoisseur of context. Please serve it up.
And yet, no. So when I was prepping to be on this podcast, I was at a dinner party with some of my artist friends who are both graduates of the Whitney Independent Study Program. And I was just talking about Point Break, blah, blah, Catherine Bigelow. And they're like, and I always have this question, which I had posed to you at one point, where when Catherine Bigelow won the Oscar, I remember somebody was like, is Catherine Bigelow an amazing female filmmaker or just a tough guy in drag? And just talking about like, oh, yeah, she's the first female director to win an Oscar, but all her movies are dude movies, which is a question for me because it's like, is she strategically doing that because she knows she'll get attention, or is she drawn to this and just getting rewarded? So I'm just posing this question to my friends, and they're like, well, did you know she is also a Whitney ISP graduate? And they're like, and she was there in like the 80s, I think, but the curriculum is the same. And they're like, and it's very Marxist, like arty downtown New York, like my friend's final project for it. It was a performance art thing, and they were like wearing a bikini, and they were like the Whitney ISP being like bound and beaten by someone in a suit who was Mr. Whitney. So it was about the artist being tortured by capital, but also needing capital. So that's a Whitney ISP thing.
Uh-huh.
And then for Catherine Bigelow to come out of that, I was like, this is
So I have a theory that ties into all of this. Right. Which is, The Loveless is very much a movie about masculinity.
Sure.
yeah.
Right? Near Dark is kind of like even-handed on the gender spectrum, right?
No, I think that's very much a movie about masculinity as well. It's a cowboy movie.
Sure, but sort of from a female perspective, even
Okay, fair
character-wise.
enough.
Do you know what
Sure.
I'm saying?
Yes.
And then Blue Steel is like, I'm going to make a female action movie. Like she clearly had this interest in action filmmaking and tried to make Jamie Lee Curtis an action star, which seems like it should have worked.
Yeah, why didn't that work?
Right. And then it's a big flop.
She's always been a weird box office draw, Jamie Lee Curtis. Like she endures, but
Right.
there's only certain kinds of movies that she's opened, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Sure,
She's a funny one.
But I'm
yeah.
saying in terms of her movie star persona, she feels like she should have worked as an action star.
absolutely.
Right? She matches that kind of energy.
Yeah.
I think if Blue Steel had been successful, she would have done female-led action movies for the rest of her career. I think that's what she would have done. And I think when that movie bombed, it was like one of those write-off things of like, well, there you go. Women can't direct successful movies. There you go. People don't want to see women in action films.
Right.
So I think Point Break was very deliberately a like reaction to like, fuck it. I can make a boy action movie.
Yeah.
You know? And then I think the die was cast. I think she knew this was like her Hail Mary pass to get to still play at like a high level within the studio. And then when this worked, it was like, oh, she's good at deconstructing masculinity, which had always been an interest of hers.
Right.
And
So
that becomes her thing because she doesn't
stay in that lane.
Right. You know?
Yeah. But after this, she makes, Forgetting Strange Days, which is her fabulous masterpiece that we'll get to. You know, she did make the Boys in the Boat movie.
Right.
And then she made the Bomb Boys movie.
Right.
You know, and then.
Hey, you know what K-19 could have used more of? Meatball subs.
But it
less nuclear subs.
It
more
takes
meatball
until
subs.
after she wins an Oscar to make another female-driven movie.
And even that, as we will talk about, she sort of stumbles into by accident. Like that
Right.
movie wasn't intended as one.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
when Osama bin Laden got murked, they decided to retool it
Right.
around this female character. Yeah.
But there is that ghettoization of like what has existed for decades is like these are the types of movies that women can direct, like the
Right.
way the studios see it. And Catherine Bigelow, I think, always had ambitions beyond those obvious genres, which like most women, unfortunately, only get hired to make romantic comedies, and it's usually because they wrote them.
Right.
You know, they're able to like attach themselves after selling the script. And I think she just didn't want to be stuck with like, well, what do? I do a Kathleen Turner action movie next?
Right.
You know? When the first one didn't work, I think that sort of like set her path as like a reactionary kind of like, I need to survive within this system.
Yeah. Which I mean, again, like as someone who thinks a lot about women writers and women behind the scenes, it's like it's always this question of like, well, do we want more women writers and directors because that gets us more women on screen, or do we want it because we just want women to work? And I want both.
Yeah.
So she's like an interesting thing to me where it's like, yeah, she's a woman like getting paid, making movies, winning awards, and she's always telling men's stories. But
Sure.
I think she
Or
does
usually,
it in a twisted way.
Yeah, she definitely twists it. But there's also, I think, this thing that's like it reminds me of the Paul Verhoeven's like blockbuster movies,
Yeah.
where it's like he's able to comment on American culture better than any American because he's one step removed from it,
Right.
and he knows how to play into it and make it like function on that proper level. But there's just a little bit of objectivity that like it adds this whole different air to it.
Right. And
Yeah.
she is able to sort of make this commentary on like why masculinity is terrible.
Sure. But
Which is
also
fantastic.
right, trying to like present different types of men and different types of
Yes.
male relationships. Okay, so basic thrust of the movie after this opening
Yeah.
sequence. 5 hours in,
An hour in, we're just going to start the plot. All right, so
we've been doing a lot
I
of
agree.
deep thinking though.
there's bank robbers. There's Johnny Utah.
Setting the stage
He's-
for people to really get the plot.
Yeah.
He's fresh out of the academy. He's an Ohio State quarterback.
Quantico.
Fresh out of Quantico. He's partnered up with Angelo Pappas, played by Gary Busey.
Going full Busey.
And Pappas has this long-running case of bank robbers, the ex-presidents who
30
they're
banks
in and
in
out
3
in 90
years.
minutes, like 27 banks in 3 years.
90 seconds.
90 seconds, sorry.
Yeah, come on, jeez.
Never
They-
go to the vault.
They never go to the vault.
No.
They just rip the cash drawers and they leave. And the only thing they like do is they moon the camera, like
Right.
And leave sex wax behind.
and because they
On the
moon the
shoe.
camera and have
Yeah.
a tan line, they leave sex wax behind, and then there's some sort of weird like clay or dirt
It's
or
like
whatever
sand.
residue.
Yeah.
He's convinced they're surfers, which everyone mocks him for.
They treat it like it's a Bigfoot sighting, like your
Yeah.
dumb fucking surfer
yeah,
theory.
right.
But Keanu takes to it. And Busey doesn't like Keanu. He doesn't like the cut of this guy's jib. He hates that he's being gifted the rookie kid as his partner.
As he tells him while blindfolded at the pool.
Yes,
He's
which I
getting
love
the short
that scene.
stand. Yeah.
I love that scene because Keanu, Johnny's just like like totally, he gets it. He has no chip on his shoulder about it.
And also, he's a people pleaser. Like he's
Yeah.
like,
He's a
I'll win
people-
this guy over
That's
eventually.
why I like it. He's
too.
like,
but that falls
he's
into
not
the
like
eagerness.
Pappas, you're a
Right.
genius. He's like, surfers, cool. I'll be
Right.
a surfer.
Yeah.
Like fine, just point me at it, baby.
But that's why the
Although not
eagerness of
initially.
Keanu as an actor is so effective here. Yeah.
Initially, he's kind of like, fuck that. Like, there's the scene where he's in the suit walking around with the surfboard and he's like, what am I going to do? Just like,
Sure.
be like sticking out on the beach. And they're like, no, you have to go fucking surf.
Yeah.
So he does need to be won over initially. And then when he's first surfing, he's like bad and not really into it. And
Yeah, right. He doesn't ever get great at it either, which I love.
No.
It's not like-
Lori Petty's the initial draw. Is just
Yeah.
What's my in with her?
Yeah.
You know.
So he pretty quickly gets mixed up with Bodhi and his gang because Bodhi recognizes him as a quarterback, which is insane. There's
Also,
no way he'd recognize
What
him.
is a blue flame? Does anybody know?
It's your idea.
Well, doesn't that... It just means new, right? Like, I mean,
really?
Is that like, I don't know. They keep talking
No
about
idea.
like you're a blue flamer,
Blue flame special. That's what they call him. I think it's just...
But yeah, but Angelo says a blue flamer too. And I was like,
No, blue flaming. Let me see.
You know what's crazy about like how point for point Fast and Furious rips Point Break off?
do they also refer to someone as a blue flame special?
No, but the meeting of Jordana Brewster and Paul Walker is the same where like she's behind the counter at the like walk up sandwich place who he's like trying to flirt with and she's like, I'm just doing my job. Like other than the Bodhi and the what's her name, Tyler
Yeah.
being ex-lovers rather than brother and sister, the dynamic is exactly the same and the introduction scene is exactly the same.
Yeah, it is.
You know what
Yeah.
movie I feel like is spiritually connected to Point Break, if not plot connected, and also has Vin Diesel in it? Boiler Room.
Sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Boiler Room
Yeah.
also one of my top 5. Like,
Interesting.
love Boiler Room.
My boy Vin's good in that.
Yeah.
That was my first Vin Diesel experience, so I never understood why nobody thought he could act.
Yeah.
Because he's so good in that.
Definitely could.
I always just thought of it as blue flame being the first part of the flame. I don't know. I don't know why I've
Now you
never
don't know
thought
what it
this
is.
through
Google's
at all.
not.
No, Google's just like, that's the line from Point Break. And I'm
Weird.
like, okay.
Weird. So it's not like a surfing term.
Your
No,
regular
well, it would be
blue
a cop
flame?
term.
The
Right.
cop calls him that.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
And so I guess the first half of this 2-hour movie, it's
Mhm.
pretty on the nugget 2 hours and moves really fast, I think, is he's like becoming friends with Bodhi and his crew, but he's definitely sure that these other surfers, including Anthony Kiedis,
Yeah.
are the ex-presidents.
Right,
And
and
they're very aggro.
He doesn't even consider the fact that it could be Bodhi because he loves
And
Bodhi and
even
his
though
crew.
everyone watching the movie is like, it's Bodhi.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not
Yeah.
even that like Bodhi's hiding it so well. It's just
No.
that he's so in love with them that he's
Yeah.
just like, I want to live this life. I'm not going to question this at all.
Well, and I think he's conflating his love of surfing with his love of. I mean, Bodhi's basically a cult leader.
Yes, and Bodhi represents what is appealing to him about surfing and that lifestyle.
Yes.
As Bodhi says later in the movie, it's not about the money. It's about us against the system that kills the human spirit. We stand for something. Here to show those guys that are inching their way on the freeways in their metal coffins that the human spirit's still alive.
David did that from memory.
No, I totally read that off the. I just love metal coffins. It's so fucking 90s. It's great.
But that's what's so great about the character too is he just like, and Swayze plays this so well.
He's just this like gumbo of like you said, like vague Buddhist shit and
Right.
kind of fuck the system shit, like Gen X nonsense. He's got sexy blonde hair.
But the level of rationalization that he just fundamentally continues until the very end, believing that he's the hero, even when
Yes.
he's killed most of his friends in the process.
And Busey, and he's taken Lori Petty
his
hostage.
ex-girlfriend
and-
hostage at knife point. Like, and he's still like,
And it's
look,
all
I'm
for
making a
what?
statement. Right.
Yeah.
Not to get political,
Mhm.
but I would argue that there is one of the things that frustrates me about our current political environment is that I think there are a lot of angry.
You like the president, though, right?
No, I'm not even talking about the president.
Okay.
Angry adrenaline.
But we do
fueled-
like Don, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Rocket
Of
Man.
course,
I don't know.
yeah.
No, there's a lot of angry adrenaline fueled young men on both sides
Mhm.
who I think just want to fuck shit up and are like, and here is my rationale. Like, I'm going to punch Nazis because like this is the thing. Or like,
Yeah,
I'm going to
sure.
like
There's a lot of
go fuck up these people because yada yada, my whatever they all write.
Bunch of
believes
Ricky
in.
T. Jokers running
Right,
around.
Ricky T. Jokers.
Yeah,
and,
right.
But Ricky T. Joker knows that he's a nihilist, whereas Bodhi doesn't.
Is in
And
denial.
Bodhi's like, no, I'm against the system. And really, he's just an adrenaline junkie
Right.
who's doing all this shit. But he's like, no. But like, I'm doing it for a reason.
Right. And he's a means to an end guy who doesn't actually have an end.
Yeah.
In sight.
That's what I like about
Right.
it. He
Yeah.
never. The only time he ever explains his philosophy is that monologue I just read.
Yeah.
And that is well after we know
Right.
that he's
He's
like
fucked.
a total fuck. Yeah.
Right.
And his plan, his ultimate plan seems to be, I'm going to get all this money. We're going to rip off all these banks. And then I'm going to go to Australia and totally die in this insane storm.
Yeah.
So I can ride the biggest wave there ever is.
He doesn't even ride the wave
eats
well.
shit. Well, probably because Bigelow's or whoever is like, well, how the fuck do we shoot? Like, look at
Right.
this. This
Yeah,
is
it's humongous.
insanity.
Yeah.
We can't put a person in this, right?
Yeah.
So they
Oh,
just like
that's
have this
not
like very far away shot. Yeah.
That's not a person?
It might be, but like, I mean, they only get like what 5 seconds. Of
You're saying
him.
it's a dummy?
They just threw a dummy on a surfboard into
What
the
I,
water.
I would love to know how they shot that scene.
It's a
They didn't
Raggedy
shoot it in
Andy doll
Australia.
with
They
a wig.
shot it in
Like
Oregon.
a car lot thing.
It's just like Bodhi's plan. It makes no sense. Never makes
No.
any
In
sense.
the
Apart from the
remake-
50-year storm, he's
Sure.
got to get to the 50-year storm.
In the remake, it's like a perfect storm, like CGI, like massive, insane
God.
wave.
Of course,
And
I guess that's not surprising.
I mean, although I would argue that his original plan before he goes balls out does kind of make sense.
Which
It
is
makes,
just rip off the banks,
Yeah, and then
move
go
around.
surf.
That's true.
it's like a seasonal worker. It's just
Sure.
work is
Yeah.
illegal.
right.
But
he's like an athlete. He's
So
gonna like leave it all.
here's my question
On the
because,
field,
like
yeah.
we've covered a lot of the plot actually, because you know in the middle of the movie there's the big raid and Sizemore's there. Early Sizemore, who's later going to be in Strange Days and absolutely just eat the whole scenery.
He's going big in this, but he's
He
really
eats
good.
Yeah.
He's great.
'Cause you-
Sizemore when he's good.
Yeah. But you need him because
Love him.
that is a fulcrum point of the movie where it's just like all of this was for nothing.
Yeah, fuck, you're just an idiot
Yeah.
trying
You
to,
know?
you're trying to solve a problem that like you don't even understand, right?
Yeah.
You know, Keanu's just like, if I just get the guys, like, then yeah, that'll be great, right? You know,
Right.
and
go back to surfing.
he doesn't even know, right, that he's kind of being suckered in by Bodhi, like sort of subconsciously
Sure. And
for the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
and there's a weird like, and I think this gets to the self-awareness of the movie of what it's doing. There were a couple moments I noticed where a featured background person has a prominent reaction to what the movie stars in the movie are doing.
Yeah.
There's when like Busey and Keanu are walking through the hallways of the police station
Yeah.
with the surfboard for the first
Oh, I
time.
love that
And there's
scene.
a guy who walks past them and kind of bumps into them and like takes an extended look.
Yeah.
They don't cut to a close up. It's a 2-shot.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's like a walk and talk. But he's just like, what the fuck are these
What
guys
is this
doing?
dumb adventure they're on?
Right.
Right. Why
And-
aren't they solving actual, like, dealing with fucking
Right.
real shit right
And
now?
when he gets into the hand-to-hand fight with like the lawnmower or whatever that
Yeah.
piece of lawn equipment is,
It's a lawnmower.
It's
yeah.
a lawnmower.
you keep on seeing the next door neighbor in the background who's like, what's this fucking action movie going on in my backyard?
Right.
I also love the lawnmower. That like
Talk
about
when
the
it's
lawnmower.
introduced, you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And then it's like both the noise distortion so that he can't communicate, and then also the weapon that
Right.
almost kills him.
Which is like, it's
so
like
good.
everything in this movie is like set up, payoff.
Yeah.
You know, like his knee is like Chekhov's gun, you know, but also just the fact that like if she introduces a visual element with a weird specificity that might just look like a Tony Scott level, like show
Yeah.
all the details, insert shot, like a flourish. It's like, no, this is going to serve a function practically.
Even the butt comes back.
Even the butt comes back.
What happens after? Is the skydiving scene right after that, like
No,
the sort of
'cause-
initiation, or when does that come? That
No,
comes
because the
after.
skydiving. Okay, because
He
what
goes
happens?
surfing
He goes
again.
back. He goes
Yeah, he goes
surfing again, and he
surfing.
gets mooned.
He sees the butt. He sees the
And then
hairy
he's
butt.
like,
Right, and he immediately
"Whoa."
figures it out. Right, he's
And
like,
then
"Wait,
he-
there's 4 of them." You know,
and then he stakes them out. He stakes them out and realizes, and he's talking to Angela. He's like, I staked them
Meatball
out.
sub.
what?
No, not that yet.
Oh, not that yet.
'Cause
Okay.
you don't see the stakeout. He follows them.
Right.
And then he's like, hey, Angelo, like, I realize that they are like mapping out this bank and they're
Right.
going to hit
Yeah,
this bank and then they're
casing
going to
the
leave.
joint. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they do the botched stakeout, and the
Right.
botched stakeout's got the chase scene where
Yes.
a dog gets thrown
Oh
at him.
God, the
Right.
throwing the dog at him is so good.
So good.
Oh my
And-
God,
and then
I
that's
love that.
That's when
That's the firing the gun into the air.
and that's when Bodhi figures out that he's and then it's like then there's the plane scene, which is such a weird energy because we know that Bodhi knows who Johnny Utah is, and
Right.
and you know
You wonder if Bodhi is testing whether
whether
Johnny knows.
that it's him, right? Because I'm like, why is Johnny going along with this? Johnny has to know that Bodhi knows he's a cop.
Right. But I think I feel like Johnny is looking for a reason to excuse Bodhi. Like
Yeah.
he's hoping there's some explanation that somehow resolves the entire thing and absolves Bodhi of guilt. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't want to have to dump Bodhi.
Or
you know?
he's like, maybe if I convince my dad that I didn't see him
Right.
cheating on my mom,
Right, didn't happen.
That like he'll stop doing it.
Right.
But it escalates. And so,
Right.
yeah, there's the whole jumping out of the plane scene.
But I love it's like a powder keg of tension because you're
Yeah.
watching it the whole time. The scene's really fun. And if it
Yeah.
was happening earlier in the movie, you'd just be like, this is a fun bro out, like something.
Right. And instead there's
Right.
the parachute
And the shit
thing.
with the parachutes,
Yeah.
which would have felt just like early goofing around.
Right, and instead you're like, are they going to try?
I think-
Yeah.
like
Right.
in a skydiving accident,
Right. But it's so much fun. I mean, God, I love, we can just go back to the meatball subs for a second. Those
Yeah.
sandwiches
Please.
look so good.
Two.
It made me
Two.
so hungry.
Only you had one to eat on mic.
That's
I
true. Should
wish.
have gotten a meatball sub.
I think Bigelow is really good at not overusing close-ups. She makes her close-ups really count for when she wants to sell something totally
like
on
the,
a face.
the shot of his eyes
Right.
in the mask. Yeah.
But otherwise, she does a lot of two shots and a
Yeah.
lot of like medium shots where she has a lot of really physical actors in this cast and you need to see what they're doing with their body, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I love about Busey's casting is he's built like a linebacker.
Yes.
But he just seems kind of run down as a person.
Right.
Like, yeah, and it's sort of fun to watch him like shamble around.
But the fact that you get to see like unbroken, him sitting there unwrapping the sandwich, taking some bites, that it's not just all on his face with the sandwich coming out of frame,
Sure,
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
But that moment is so masterful when Johnny just like happy-go-lucky goes and orders the sandwiches and the lemonade and you see them pull up behind him. Like it's almost like a fucking Looney Tunes gag. Like it's almost like a Michigan J. Frog bit where it's like, oh, of course the second he turns around.
Yeah.
Of course the second Busey's eating the sandwich.
But then,
Right.
The skydiving scene right after that is when they go to the bank robbery.
Yeah.
Because it's like the skydive, they land. Bodhi's like, I have taken Tyler hostage.
Yeah.
And then
you have to go.
And then
do
he's
this
like,
with
Special Agent Utah.
me. Right. Mask off. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, that like when they're leading up to that bank robbery where Johnny's there was a line that I was hoping might be your line, although it's a Swayze line, which I would have just loved if you had said, all I'm asking for is 90 seconds of your podcast.
I thought about that.
That would
I
be
really
really
thought
good.
about that, which is all I ask of our listeners.
Hey, early technology. When they show the video, I don't even know what that is.
I have no idea what the fuck that is.
It's not a VHS.
No,
It must be some kind of earlier. Maybe I have no idea, but I loved it.
it's
There's
great.
a lot of old computers in this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
baby. 1991.
Like the database where they look up Tyler.
Oh,
Yep.
love it. So good.
Yeah, where the database where it's like the first page is her arrest record, and you're like, yeah, well, okay, I buy that they. And then he's like, no, what else they got? And the second page, he's like, yeah, mother and father died. And I'm like, it wouldn't have that. Like, this is a DOS database. We don't just put in like, some personal info, some color.
The thing I love about this movie, and I think it speaks to the screenplay, because this had to have inherently been part of the script, is that a shittier movie, I think, would end with that foot chase
Sure.
and
Yeah.
Johnny shooting in the air and letting Bodhi go.
I guess so.
I think you would have had a little more meat before that, but that would have been the ending.
Meatball.
Is he's
Yeah.
heartbroken by the guy he was so close to, and he lets him get away, rather than letting Bodhi become terrifying.
Right. And that's the midpoint.
Right.
Like, I
Basically.
remember.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because like the remake lets Bodhi stay noble the entire time, and you're like, fuck.
No,
this.
the minute Bodhi kidnaps Tyler, right? He's hard because,
Yeah.
bank robbery is a fairly victimless crime.
Right.
Like, it's easy
Yeah.
for people to root for bank robbers, right?
Sure.
There's a zillion movies about bank robbers,
Right.
Often the bank robber is not, but
And it feels
usually
countercultural, which is Bodhi's
Yeah.
whole philosophy.
right. But then
right.
usually, of course, in any bank robbery movie, shit goes bad. So
Right.
here's my question:
Uh-huh.
in the bank robbery scene where he's got Johnny there unmasked to sort of implicate him, why does Bodhi want to rip off the vault all of a sudden? Like, why does he make that decision?
I think because he's an adrenaline. I mean, I think
Is
he's self-destructive.
He's just sort of losing it. He's like going full tilt, like, or
Yeah.
whatever, and he's just kind of like, because there's no like, there's no like obvious plot reason for it.
Well, because he says in the lead up, because they're all just like, we should fucking bail. This dude's an FBI agent. And then he
Right.
gives a whole speech where he's like, I think that's when he gives the like, it was never about the money thing. And he's like, this
Yes.
is the ultimate thrill.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's when it's starting, he's becoming unhinged, clearly. But
Yes.
it's also pointing out, it's like, he wasn't robbing banks to surf because it was just a convenient thing.
Sure.
He
He
wants
really
to-
gets
right.
off.
It's same with the skydiving, obviously.
It's like chasing the dragon.
Yeah.
It's like trying to get that better high. And I think that this is probably the last time they're going to rob a bank.
Right.
So he just wants to go all out and just like get the highest he can off of
See,
that.
that's
Fucks him up though.
the additional layer that I would put onto it, and I think it's
I wasn't.
tied to
This
that.
isn't me objecting, by the way. I was
Yeah.
more just soliciting opinions.
But I agree with everything you said. The other element I think that's at play is we talking about the fact that Bodhi has no real long-term plan other than this idea of
Right.
like travel around the world, live off the land. But he's kind of one of those people who keeps on saying like, yeah, I'm just going to retire and move to the woods. And you're like, you'll never fucking do it. When you
Yeah.
say you'll do that, you'll never do it.
Right.
All Bodhi wants to do is just continue surfing with his bros and robbing banks, getting a reasonable amount of money
Yeah.
where they can keep it safe, right?
Right.
But at this point, I think he knows no matter what, as Ben said, this is probably his last bank robbery,
Yeah.
right? He's
Yeah.
got Johnny Utah here. So
Yep.
if he's going to make a life for himself, he needs to like go all in, get all the money because he's going to be running for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and Johnny
Yep.
even says
No,
that.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Right.
He's like, you've killed an FBI agent. Like, people have figured out who you are.
Right.
They're gonna, when they get on the plane, he's like, oh, I love that line. He's like, there's this new thing called radar. Maybe you've heard of it.
Great technology. But it's like he needs to build a bigger parachute for himself
Yeah.
now because this is like the end of the line.
Yeah.
But of course, that's
And
what
he
ends.
loves the thrill.
They spend too much time in the bank,
hmm
and a hero cop decides he's gonna, shoot at them. It all goes wrong.
We don't do this often, but occasionally we'll play the game of like, which role would I play in this movie?
You're
You
the
would be
guy
the
who's like,
hero
don't
cop.
do anything. Don't do
100%.
anything. You fucking idiot. What are you, crazy? And he's the
100%.
security
Yeah.
guard. He's
Right.
just like, come on, get the.
Dude, don't do anything.
They're insured. Just let them take the money.
it's
Yeah.
fine. Who gives a
cares?
shit? Yeah.
Hero cop fucks everything up. So now they're in trouble, and one of them is dead. Two of them are dead. Do two of them die at the scene?
One of them's dead. One of them's severely injured.
And the cop
I think,
is
right?
dead.
Yeah.
No, two of them are dead because it's just by the time they get on the plane, it's just Bodhi and James LeGros.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, two of them
Right.
die. I can't remember the
No,
exact.
but I think one of them
sequence.
dies with Busey. Or does Busey shoot James? Is that's how James LeGros gets shot?
Right.
Yeah,
By
because
Busey.
no, it's just
right.
one dies of the bank robbery, right? And then Bodhi knocks out Johnny Utah.
Yeah.
At the scene, runs away,
Yeah.
and that's when, and then Busey springs Johnny.
Right.
And they
springs
go to the
Keanu,
plane,
which-
the airfield.
Yeah.
and that's where Busey dies, which is like, already, Swayze's kidnapped Tyler. Now he's responsible for the death of a character. We like, right? Like,
Right.
this is a monstrous
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And I like how Bigelow's like, doesn't just then flip and is like, yeah, well, Bodhi's an asshole and he needs to die. She's still kind of with him,
Yeah.
because he's been the same throughout, I think is what
Yeah.
she's saying.
Well, someone asked you on Twitter. I know you were saying this is a nihilistic movie.
Yeah.
But someone asked you on Twitter, David, after watching The Loveless, going like, so is Bigelow a nihilist? And your response was, no, I think she's a realist, which is
Right.
even more depressing.
Right. And I think that's true.
Like, I think a lot of her movies are about like how people kind of are inherently drawn to doing the wrong thing,
Sure.
are sort of fundamentally fucked.
Yeah.
I
I think that's true. Obviously, this is not a realistic movie
at all. It's very
in
heightened.
terms of how the right things happen, but I do think she's realistic about her character's motivations, like
Yeah.
you're saying. And
Right.
I think it's true of like the Hurt Locker. I think
And
it's true of a lot of
Emotionally honest.
And
Yes.
right, and this last act of the movie is like Johnny Utah kind of being caught in like a psychologically abusive relationship with Bodhi.
Yeah, literally.
Right, because he wants to keep on giving him another chance. Weirdly,
Yeah.
like number one priority, get Tyler's safety, right? But number
Right.
two is like he doesn't want to bring the hammer down on Bodhi because he wants to believe this guy's better, and in the process causes a lot more damage.
Well, and I think it's again because he's confused the purity and joy of surfing
Sure.
with Bodhi. And he's like,
Right.
no, you taught me this. You must be.
Right. You must be
I
the
access-
enlightened person.
On a
This
surface
high
level,
through you.
it looks like Bodhi is living the life that he wants to live, where it's just he's only doing things for himself. He doesn't need
Yeah.
to prove things to people. He finds peace in the solitary personal activity.
He's
you
into
know?
free love.
Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
But then.
The plane scene's great.
Yeah.
LeGros like, I'm really cold. And Keanu's like, the blood is leaving your body. That's why you're cold.
The skydiving photography in this movie is fucking unbelievable.
I don't know how she did it.
I don't either. It's
How
it's
the
insane.
hell do you do that stuff?
It's insane.
I mean, I really, like I already said, but I really do think that shot of Keanu leaping out of the plane to grab him
How did he
is
fall
the
fast?
best shot. Well, if you make your body a tube,
Okay.
you can fall much faster, but you have no control over.
Right.
you
Because
know,
I was
and
like, that's
you
not totally
you go like
possible.
this. No. It is. That's how you go faster and slower.
my exact thought.
There's no way they would fall for 90 seconds, though. They'd be dead.
Yes.
I looked that up.
Yeah.
They'd be dead.
Right.
It's like 30 seconds max. You're
the first
falling.
skydiving sequence goes on for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't work that way. But and also they wouldn't. It would be very hard for them to talk to each other. Obviously,
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Right.
you really have to basically just like go into someone's ear and
Yeah.
be like, "Bodhi, you betrayed me," or
Right.
you know, like I mean,
No, they
yeah.
talk to each other. They hold hands. They break apart. They each listen to an episode of WTF.
Yeah,
they play
yeah.
Guess Who.
Yep,
Like
yeah.
they do a lot of stuff up
Who
in
are
the
your
air.
skies? Sorry.
But
Well, and then they have like their second like parachute pole chicken.
I think that's so good.
So
right?
good.
Where Bodhi is not like he's like, you got to kill me or pull the chute. Like, and he explains it all. But
right, which is
Yeah.
it's set up so well by the first one, where it's like the game of chicken is like Keanu's half questioning whether or not they gave him a dummy pack, but B
Yeah.
also it's like he wants them to be a unit. He wants them to be like operating in tandem.
Yeah.
But two thoughts I had were, one, this movie is so sexy just on like a filmmaking level, and how
Yes.
like I watch and all these things I've like always hated this movie sells me on, where I'm like, fuck, I want to live in California. Like the way this film's California, when you see the sandwich,
Yeah.
you're like, God, I want to eat that sandwich. I would never skydive in my entire life.
never.
And when I watch this sequence, I'm like, fuck, I want to do that right now.
I know it
Yeah.
is really cool because she's getting the shots of the land.
Yeah.
Which is like Earth looks like an alien planet from that high.
And
It's
also,
so
if it
cool.
lasted that long, I would probably do it.
It even
there's
makes
no way I'd
bleeding
ever
to
do it.
death look cool.
It makes it look
That is
awesome.
true. That is true.
Skydiving's cool.
Have
Yes.
you done it, Ben?
I've done it a couple of times.
How
Of
is it?
course you have.
It's amazing.
Not surprised.
You have to go tandem, so you have to go with somebody.
Right.
You're
Right.
not,
Yeah,
like,
you got someone on
legally
your
allowed.
back.
Right,
Right.
right, yeah.
So they're taking care of all the like pulling,
Right.
shoot, all that
Right,
stuff.
right.
But there is nothing.
So you're
like-
just literally having the experience of falling slowly,
God,
majestically.
With style.
Yes.
Yeah.
Buzz Lightyear.
I remember the guy the second time around because I had told him I had gone before. He's like, "You like spinning, man?" While I'm hanging out of the plane, I'm like, yeah," and he went for it, and it was.
You mean so you're going like
We
you're
like-
corkscrewing
we
in
were
the
like
air?
corkscrewing,
Oh.
flying around.
No,
he then
thank you.
finally leveled us out, but
like vertically, like almost doing like
just-
cartwheels.
just
Yeah.
spinning like
Very
360
weird to
around.
think that's someone's job.
Yeah.
Like every day he's like, "What am I going to do today? I'm going to jump out of a plane again." That's what
I'm
I
the
do every
spinning
day.
guy.
Yeah.
That no, were you gonna say something?
Oh,
else?
just
Yeah.
also falling through clouds is really insane.
How
looks
does it
amazing.
feel?
Well, you can't.
Cloudy?
I mean, yeah,
Is it
No.
wet?
Yeah, that was my assumption.
it's kind of wet.
You're a wet guy. After
It's
all.
kind of wet.
Yeah.
It's like when it's like a little damp outside, like post rain. Is that what
Yeah,
it's
it's
kind
like
of
foggy.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorta. Yeah.
I mean, it
um,
is like just falling through fog.
Right.
so-
Sure.
Pretty much.
The moment when Keanu jumps out packless with the gun first,
Yeah.
the thought I had to myself was, well, this is why movies exist.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like I was like,
agree.
this is why we go to the movies.
And I think that's what Bigelow thinks too, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what she sees in this movie.
And not
Yeah.
just because it's a cool image, but the way the entire story is built up to that image, the way the image is captured, you know, like everything about it is just like, this is what is capable, like with cinema. This is what you can do in long form narrative storytelling on a big screen.
Yep.
Even if you're watching it on your fucking laptop like I did, it's just
Yep.
like, oh God, such a pretty boy.
It's great. So
Yeah.
there's this emotional confrontation in the sky.
Yeah.
This movie's about the sky.
It's not Aloha, but it's about the sky.
It is about, and he again doesn't kill Bodhi. You know, he's had 2 clean shots on him in this movie, and he doesn't do it.
Right. But Bodhi has kind of put him in an impossible situation.
Yes, no, for sure. He needs to protect Tyler, or so on.
Right.
And then Bodhi runs away. James LeGros does not make it. He dies midway through.
Sure.
He does pull his chute, but then he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Bodhi escapes with the money, and then we just cut to 9 months later at the beach for the 50-year storm,
Mhm.
Yes.
and Johnny's found him there, knowing he wants to do it. I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And he snaps the handcuff to him, and
Right.
Bodhi's just like, "Come on, man! I just want to fucking surf. Like, let me do this last thing.
I just want to die.
I'm not gonna go anywhere. Like cliffs on either side,
Right.
And,
I can't be in a cage, man. What am I going to do there?
and so Johnny's like, okay.
Yeah.
And he goes and he fucking wastes himself out there. It's great.
There's a good detail I love when they release Tyler that she runs to him and they embrace, but they don't kiss.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you
She
have a,
hates him, right?
Yes.
Because she feels betrayed by him when she finds out he's a FBI agent, and like by she yells at him about lying about his.
Yeah, he,
Although-
he manipulated her
Yeah.
like
Hard,
really,
hard.
really hard.
Although I think it's that scene because there's the scene earlier where he like wants to tell her that he's a cop.
Right.
And she thinks he's trying to say he loves her.
Yeah.
And I think when she comes out of that, I think they repeat that moment where
Yes.
she's like basically about to say, I love you.
Right.
And he's like, we can talk
Interesting.
about it later.
Sure.
So I don't think she hates him.
Well, she definitely hates him in that moment earlier.
Right,
But yes,
absolutely.
maybe she's right.
But I think at that moment, she's also just dealing with like the trauma of what she's just been through. And it would be so easy to do the like fucking Man of Steel, Jurassic World, like we kiss while the world is burning around us. But it's like in that moment, you wouldn't like, it doesn't matter whether you love the guy
Sure,
or
right.
hate the
It's
guy.
not really a romantic
She runs
moment.
him just because she's like, I need to get away from that guy
Yeah,
with the
she's
fucking
been
knife.
through,
like,
yeah.
right. And she just like kind of collapses. Yeah.
And I would argue that this is probably the first time she has realized how fucking evil Bodhi is.
Yes.
And so now it's like, oh, wait, you were staking out Bodhi. You lied to me and that's fucked
Sure,
up. But
yeah, she know, right. You're right. Yeah, she has new perspective on Bodhi.
And she's always been giving Johnny the like straight talk on Bodhi, where it's like Bodhi's like kind of full of shit. Like, you know, there is this thing where I think she's always high status. Like, you know, until intellectually at least. Obviously, at a certain point she's low status physically, but like intellectually, she's always like, I get this more than everyone else. You boys are gonna do your fucking boy thing, like run around and point guns at each other and whatever, you know. But I know what's driving all of this.
Yeah.
You're all just like scared of your own mortality and
This movie, I think, is like the spoof cop action movie, right? Like Hot Fuzz is spoofing this movie more than any other movie.
Right.
Like down to like the gun in the air, the throwing the bags away, all this sort of semiotics.
Hot Fuzz, another movie that I love. I realized while watching this, in Hot Fuzz, I think like it's in the final action scene when they're getting ready, they say, Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll, which is what the ex-presidents say. And I was like, interesting that you have the cops mimicking the bad guys.
Sure. Time to rock and roll.
Yeah.
I am not a crook. All right. So originally,
it's 5 comedy points for that because he is literally
a crook
stealing money.
That's the joke.
Yeah,
5 comedy points.
Yeah,
Posthumous comedy points to Patrick Swayze.
So some little trivia pieces. Ridley Scott was going to make this movie. That was the original concept.
That's weird.
With thinking of Matthew Broderick or Johnny Depp as Utah, and Val Kilmer or Charlie Sheen as Bodhi.
Wait, Charlie Sheen wouldn't have been old enough, I feel like.
I don't know what to tell you.
That's weird.
He was hot shit. I mean, Platoon.
No.
But then it just sort of, I guess, Scott passes on it or something. You know, it doesn't
Thank God.
It falls apart. And Cameron, who is an executive producer, recommends Catherine Bigelow, who was just wrapping up Blue Steel.
Okay.
So I assume she nails this job down before Blue Steel even comes out.
Okay.
Because they're pretty close together. Maybe not. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So that happens, and then the movie comes out, and we should talk about that
box office
in the box office game.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
July 12th, 1991.
Okay, middle of the summer.
This movie opens. What number do you think this movie opens? It's a wild weekend.
3?
Wrong.
Higher or lower?
Lower.
5?
Higher.
4.
Fourth.
Four
it
and a
opens
half.
fourth.
Wow.
$8.5 million.
Okay, and what does it end up at?
43.
So
Which adjusted is at 91.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a solid hit.
Yeah,
it's
it's
an
a solid
R-rated
hit.
action
Right,
movie.
and
It's
then
coming out in the height of
huge
summer.
home video cable TV movie that cements its legacy.
For sure.
Yeah.
It is
Right.
the number 3 surfing movie behind and Box Office Mojo.
Number 3 surfing movie.
The top 2 are very surprising to me.
One of them is Surf's Up, the animated
Number
film?
1, the animated
Wow.
film about surfing penguins.
Okay, is the number 2 like strictly surfing movie, or does it just contain like surfing stuff? Like, would you say it's about the world of surfing?
It is, but it's also about like personal healing and redemption. I think it's sort of like an inspirational true story movie.
It's not Blue Crush.
No, that is number 4.
Soul
That's
Surfer?
a great movie. Soul Surfer.
Weird.
Who even remembers that movie? Dennis Quaid.
I do, because that was one of 2
Anna Sophia Robb.
Helen Hunt surfing movies.
Right, along with Chasing Mavericks. No, that's the Gerard Butler movie.
Yes. Do you know that Lori Petty directed a movie 10 years ago, an autobiographical film? She has a crazy, crazy life story
I did not.
where she was one of 3 children raised by a single mother who was a prostitute. And
I did not
she
know.
wrote and directed an autobiographical film about her childhood with Jennifer Lawrence, and one of her first movie roles playing the Lori Petty character.
What's it called?
And not Anna Sophia Robb, Chloe Grace Moritz.
The Poker House?
Yes.
Yeah.
And co-written by
David Alan Grier.
What?
How weird is that?
What a wild movie.
I
Jennifer
didn't-
Lawrence.
Jennifer
Selma
Lawrence
Blair,
played
Blair.
Lori Petty
Chloe
in a
Grace
film.
Moretz.
I did not know about any of this.
All of that's
Bokeem
true.
Woodbine.
Apparently, David Allen Greer is one of her best friends, and she told David Allen Greer about her life story, and
Yeah.
he was like, "I want to write this with you."
Does he
I know
write a
people
lot of
who are-
movies?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I know people who are friends with David Allen Greer, so it doesn't surprise me that he's Lori Petty's friend. I'm
He seems
oh.
like a nice
Sure,
guy.
Yeah.
I never knew him to write at all.
He's
I did
so
not
good
know
in the
that, though.
Carmichael
Yeah.
show.
He's a really fucking good actor.
He is.
You know what he was
Actually.
great on? The Wiz Live.
Oh yeah,
He
Sure. Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
killed it on the Wiz Live.
amazing.
He's
Which I
always
was
good.
underwhelmed by.
Sure. Right.
oh,
It was fine.
I liked it.
I enjoyed it.
I mean, it was all just like cool. We're finally gonna have a musical that's not all white people. So that
Sure.
already just made me like. I also saw it under the perfect conditions. I saw it in a townhouse in Harlem.
Yes.
with all black people. So
I just feel like I like my Wiz really sad.
yeah.
I think the Lumette's really a sad movie. I think some productions are
Yeah.
sad, and I
I'm
felt
gonna
like
take us off
Wiz
this
Live was a little too
discussion.
glitzy.
Oh yeah, box office.
So
Okay.
Point Break opens number 4.
Okay.
Number 1 is the movie that came out the week before that is still number 1 at the box office. It has grossed $90 million in 2 weeks. Makes $20 million this weekend.
What does it
For
end up at?
1991.
I know.
Hmm?
What does it end up at?
It ends up at 204 domestic. It is one of the biggest hits in history.
It's one of the biggest hits.
Also
in
the
history.
most expensive film ever made to that point in time.
True Lies?
No. 1991, my friend.
Right,
Realize
okay.
it's 94.
Oh, Terminator 2?
Terminator 2. Her husband's movie came out a week before her movie. I have no idea why. They're different studios.
Wow.
Because Point Break is a Fox movie. Terminator
Yeah.
2 is TriStar, I think.
I
I mean, Terminator 2's
was
rights
weird.
issues are so
Right.
bizarre.
But
I
she
think
got
it was
her
released by
revenge.
TriStar. Yes, that's true. She kicked his ass in 09. So Terminator 2 is just is redefining
Yes.
action
Yeah.
movies up at the top of the list.
Right.
And Point
Redefining
Break,
success.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Point Break, which is another like generational action movie,
Yeah.
comes out the week
That's
after.
crazy. That is insane.
That's
Wild.
rough.
Wild shit.
Wild.
Number 2 at the box office is new this weekend and is a reissue of an animated classic. I have no idea how you're going to guess which
Wow,
one it is. It opened to $10 million. This is
Disney?
back when Disney would reissue. Yeah.
Little Mermaid?
Nope.
Oh, no.
No.
Because Little Mermaid comes out shortly
Little Mermaid's
before
like
that.
2 years old. right?
Pinocchio?
No.
I have
A little
an
later.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I think I might be able to pinpoint this because I would go to those re-releases. Is it The Jungle Book?
No, which I went to. I remember that one.
Right.
You're a little too young at this point, though. 91? I mean,
Yeah.
you're like a baby, right?
I think this might have been my first movie I saw in a theater.
You were 2.
That's why I think it might have been the first movie I saw. My parents would take me to movies early on.
Well,
Okay.
hit me with it.
Okay, so it wasn't Pinocchio. It wasn't. I'm trying to reverse engineer it because they stopped doing the re-releases maybe when I was like 5. But
Like,
I definitely saw the first
This
3.
movie first came out in 1961. So this is the 30-year anniversary
I
of this
feel
movie.
like I know what it is.
It's not
but I
Sleeping
could be
Beauty,
wrong.
is it?
No, this movie made $144 million when you take all its re-releases into account. It's a huge hit.
It's not 101 Dalmatians?
Yes, that's
Oh,
it.
okay.
It's
so
101
Dalmatians.
Oh, I was wrong.
Bingo.
No, it's
Pogo.
Pongo.
Pongo. Whatever.
Fuck,
the
I fucked
is.
it up.
Pongo and what's the other one? Perdita?
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 Pongo and
Something like
Perdita? Yeah.
Not my favorite Disney.
No.
But some kids love it because they love dogs.
Yeah, I always thought it was
I
fine.
mean, I just love Cruella de Vil.
Cruella freaked me the fuck out. I couldn't deal with her.
Yeah.
She really scared me at the end when her eyes go crazy. Did not like that.
I like the human couple. I just
They're
like that
cute.
they're kind of like
Yeah.
a weird, like East Village, like songwriter, kind of, yeah. Okay,
Number 3 at the box office is another generation-defining movie of the early 90s, also opening this weekend to $10 million. What do you call it? I guess it's like a gritty crime drama, I guess, but it's like really a really, really, really crucial movie it's like a fucking bedrock movie for a whole like genre of 90s movies, I feel like.
Interesting. When you say gritty crime,
And it's like an Oscar hit. Like this movie makes a lot of money, gets nominated for some Oscars.
Sons of the Lambs?
No, that came out in January.
Okay. When you say crime, is it more focused on the criminals or the law enforcement?
I guess it's about life on the street. It's hard
Homicide.
to no. It's hard to talk about this movie
Boys
without
in the
totally
Hood?
giving it away. Yes,
Okay.
Boys in
I
the
was gonna say I love this movie.
but Boys in the Hood. John Singleton, still
Yes.
the youngest ever director, I
Oh.
think.
26. He was 26 when he got nominated.
I think might have even been younger.
Oh, I think
he was
you're right.
24.
Jesus Christ. I got freaked out when Johnny Utah said he was 25 in this movie.
Oh yeah, me too.
I mean, look,
I'm
we're
turning
all-
35 tomorrow, so oof.
I'm turning 47.
Yeah, he was 24 years old.
That's
The
insane.
first African American and the youngest director ever nominated for Best Director.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think he'll ever be beaten.
Rosewood is kind of a blank check.
Yeah.
It's a more
Yeah.
expensive movie.
Yeah.
He definitely. I mean, Rosewood wasn't like a huge budget movie, but still,
Sure.
he got a lot of money to make this very specific period movie.
But also, when you're the youngest
No, I
guy
know.
ever
it's the
nominated
thing,
for Best
he bursts
Director,
onto the
I think
scene
people
with
thought
Boys
he
in the
was going to
Hood.
be like a major American
Yeah.
force. Yeah.
So
A
it's
major
just
voice. and
It's
then
just
he
like
kind of
looking at this
became-
top five.
yeah.
You got three movies that are really
Yeah.
like huge early
Of
90s
the era.
movies.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
That's
very
incredible.
definitive early 90s.
A lot of dies are being
touchstone.
cast this weekend. Yeah.
Number 4 is Point Break. Number 5 is, I think we talked about this one before. It's a comedy sequel. I can't remember which one.
Another Stakeout?
No.
Look who's talking too.
No.
It's a comedy sequel. When did the first one come out?
Ask me
Was this like a
questions.
rush sequel or was this a delayed sequel?
It's a good question. The first one came out in 88. This one comes out in 91. The last one comes out in 94.
There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them.
Trilogy.
Big, broad comedies.
It's The Naked Gun, 2.5 The Smell of Fear.
The best one?
Um,
Maybe the highest grossing.
yeah, I'll say this. I had always argued that it was the best of the 3.
Yeah.
I rewatched 1 and 2 recently, and 1 has moved up now on my list.
One's great. They do kind of blur together to me. Which I
Two's
think
got
we've
some great
discussed.
gags. One
Yeah.
just something about
Some of the other movies,
a
we've
great
got
trilogy.
Robin
Great
Hood,
trilogy.
Prince of Thieves, which is hanging out just a huge. In 5 weeks, it's made 109.
Yeah. Massive
That's
hit.
a massive.
That's
hit.
another butt movie.
Yeah, a lot of butt in that movie.
Oh, that's true, but not his butt.
Not his butt double.
He did not want to get in the water.
A thing I love about Point Break is it clearly isn't a butt double because it's just kind of like a mediocre butt with a hairy ass.
It's
crack.
true. It's not a great butt.
It's not like a manicured butt.
Very true. Number 7 is Regarding Henry, which we will,
Right.
I'm sure, get really deep into later when we do our Mike Nichols. I don't know.
We talked about it in K19 though.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
City Slickers,
Oh,
big
I
hit
remember.
of that year. Is,
Generation defining.
yeah.
I remember when that was a thing.
That was a big thing.
Problem Child 2,
Oh,
Oh.
and a movie I'm sure Griffin loves a lot, The Rocketeer at number 10.
I like that movie a lot. I don't love it. It's weird. I always feel like I should adore it.
I'm with you. I like that movie, but it's never been a.
I remember
what were you gonna say
seeing
about
it in
it?
the
Yeah.
theater, but it's all I remember is that he was a Rocketeer. I don't remember any of the plot except that maybe there were Nazis. It feels like a movie that would've had Nazis.
there are Nazis in it. Timothy
also-
Dalton's really good in
Yeah.
it.
Also, by the way,
Yes.
I realized I should tell you how I discovered Point Break.
Oh, please do.
please.
And then I'm
Because,
going to turn the tables. I got a surprise, but please tell us how you found Point Break.
So summer of 1996, I went to.
Oh, so you didn't see it in theaters?
I did not. I was
Okay.
8.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or that was
I was too young. Obviously,
Yeah.
I was 5.
So summer of 1996. Slight context for this is that my parents lived in Israel. I have an Israeli uncle. Like my family has ties to Israel. Summer 1996, my aunt and uncle and take me and my cousins to Israel for 3 weeks and dump us with my cousin's babysitter. So we're in just some like Israeli suburb for 3 weeks, kind of going to water parks, going to this, blah blah blah. I just am basically hanging out a lot.
This is the perfect way to discover a movie.
This is
It's
so
true.
I'm like
in Israel with a babysitter.
going through their
Yeah.
I'm 13 and
Right.
going through their VHS collection and like I must have watched other movies, but Point Break was one of them. And
Yeah.
I just remember like watching Point Break with Hebrew subtitles a bunch and being like, I love this movie. I really love this movie.
I've talked about how there was like a summer I spent with my family in the south of France where there was a video store that only had like 4 movies with English subtitles. And a
Yeah.
lot of movies I watched for the first time dubbed in French.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that before in the podcast,
Oh
but
my
like Wayne's World, I saw it in French 5 times before I saw it in English, and I only was able to pick up on the visual gags
Oh my God.
and context clues to figure out what was
Yeah.
going on because I do not speak French.
I also saw Jumanji in the Israeli theaters and they do intermissions in like
For
screened
Jumanji?
movies. Yeah.
That's giving Jumanji more pomp and
They
was
do it
circumstance.
Jumanji,
for-
like
they
90
just do it
minutes
for
long?
all movies.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're just like, it's too long to sit through.
That's a movie that looks the new Jumanji.
Jesus
that
Christ.
looks rough.
I was reading an interview with Jake Kasdan, who used to be a very good filmmaker.
Yeah. What's the good one?
Zero Effect.
Zero Effect's pretty good.
He directed most of Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, he directed
He
a
did
lot
the
of Freaks and
pilot and
Geeks.
directed the majority
But
of the
TV
season.
directing is a
Orange
whole-
County's totally solid.
solid.
Yeah.
Right. And then he just stops making good movies.
Orange County's the one with Jack Black, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that
that's-
movie.
that's
Some
better
people
than
like
Has
the
a Right to
TV
Be.
set. I've never seen it.
It's okay.
And he directed Walk Hard.
Right. Walk Hard
Walk Hard's
rules.
good.
TV
Then
set's
he
about
did
Judd Apatow.
Bad Teacher, which is basically a terrible movie that's sort of watchable.
Right, but
And
that
then he
felt
did
like a
Sex
rebound,
Tape.
which is like, yeah, nightmare.
Ooh.
And then
Never seen
Jumanji
Sex
looks
Tape.
horrific. I read some interview with him where he was talking about it, and he was like, we know how important the original is, so we want to be very reverential of the original. And I was like, we're canonizing Jumanji now?
Jumanji's not good.
No, it's like a C plus, a B minus, if you're generous.
We all just saw it.
Yeah,
like,
right.
you know, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it's fine.
what
It
Jumanji-
It's
was
fine.
your mandatory Robin Williams film that
Yeah,
summer.
right.
Yeah, I saw it.
Jumanji's best thing it has going for it was at that nexus of like still having a lot of practical effects. Like they're cool animatronics in Jumanji, but the
Yeah.
movie, who fucking gives a shit?
Well, and the trailer that I saw for the new one, I was just like, what the fuck is
Yeah, it
this
looks so dumb.
movie?
Okay, David, can I turn the tables?
Oh, sure.
For once, I want you to guess the box office
Okay.
for the weekend of December 25th, 2015, Christmas weekend, because that is when Point Break 2015 came out. It is one of 5 new releases that weekend. It opens at number 8
Ooh.
with $9 million, ends up making $28 million, which usually at Christmas, even a shitty movie multiplies like 5 times its opening
No, but
weekend.
it was, yeah,
You got
right.
all the Jews
it was,
going.
Yeah. Dead on Arrival, that having been said, it made $100 million overseas.
Boo.
That was the big play there.
Okay, so it's Christmas. Do you know the exact date?
2015. So I'll tell you the other movies that opened lower or around Point Break. Hateful Eight is number 10 in limited release before. Well, this is just when it's in the 70 millimeter, right?
We saw it together.
Yes, we did.
Mhm.
Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is number 9.
Yeah.
Point Break is number 8.
Yeah.
Tell the Truth, Concussion is number 7.
Tell the truth. This new movie is just like that movie.
Big Short is number 6. Its first weekend going wide. Number 5 is a movie. It's in its second week. It has been talked about a lot on this podcast. I've invoked it many times. It is, I'd say, a lesser entry from one of my, to say favorite directors would be incorrect, but one of the directors I'm most fascinated by. It is a
Lesser
sequel.
entry.
He did not
Sequel?
direct the 2 previous movies. He came on just for this one. I'm sorry. He did not direct the 3 previous movies.
So it's the 4th entry
Director I'm
in a
fascinated by.
series. A director. Oh, so is it Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Trip?
Correct.
It's The Road Trip?
It's The Road Trip.
All right. Okay, good. Okay,
Opens to
okay.
13.
Oh.
Opens to 13.
Opens to
Why?
13, ends up at 85. Does 140 overseas. Okay, number 4 is a comedy that made more money than everyone remembers.
Comedy. Daddy's Home?
That is number 2.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
That is
okay.
number 2, opening
All right.
with a robust $38 million.
That was the movie. I mean, we can all guess number 1 in a second, but
Right.
that was the movie that people who couldn't see number 1 went to see instead.
Right. So this movie, the movie that's number 4, it's in its second weekend of release. That was the big cornerstone of their advertising campaign, especially when like the stars are doing press and stuff. They kept on joking like, "Go see this instead." If number 1 is sold out, it's a big, much like Daddy's Home.
Yeah.
It is
Big
2
star,
people
2
who
big
have
stars.
already started a comedy together. It's a delayed follow-up film for a comedy duo that is. They're very well known for working together. They've only made 2 movies. You hate the first one.
I hate the first one.
Yes, you have said you think it's a contemptible movie. I think it's fine.
I think it's a contemptible movie.
Yes, you find the movie abhorrent, and I'm always surprised by how
It's
much you
Sisters
hate it. Correct,
with Tina Fey and Amy.
and you hate Baby Mama.
I hate Baby Mama.
I think both of them are solid. I think both of them have funny stuff in them.
I liked Baby Mama, but I think what's really telling is my favorite part of Baby Mama was Romani Malco.
He's so good in it.
He's really good.
Yeah,
like that's
he's good.
if I think about that movie, I just remember Romani Malco.
How have we still not gotten
Malco.
Romany Malco fucking vehicles?
How have you not gotten him as a guest?
I know.
Yeah, I know. He's going to be a guest next week. Number 3 movie.
Because he got pigeonholed into black movies is a lot of why. And
But then
like,
even I don't know. I just don't understand
He's
why.
so
even
good.
but even there, why he didn't become a leading man. Like
That's
why he
true.
didn't have his own screen gems, like fucking romantic comedy.
yeah.
But that was pretty good, me guessing that, right? Because
Very
talk
good.
about an anonymous movie. I mean, you
Correct.
gave me a lot of hints.
People
Wait,
forget
so what's their second collaboration?
His sisters.
His
This is the
sisters.
second. of
Okay,
two.
okay.
Yeah.
For some reason,
Oh,
I
I
thought
said
thought
they
you said
did a
it
lot
was
of
the
other
third.
stuff together,
Sure.
but this is
Right.
only their second movie. Number 3 is a belly flop from a star and director team that had 2 massive successes in a row.
belly flop, 2 massive successes in a row.
And this was sort of like the first time people were questioning the box office drawing power of someone who seemed to be a sure thing.
And is this is it opening this week? Like, is it a Christmas movie?
It's a Christmas movie. It was the 3rd collaboration from the director and the star. The other 2 had been huge financial successes, huge Oscar successes. And
Oh.
this one,
Oh, is it Joy?
it is Joy.
Ah.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Daddy's Home, and we all know what number 1 is.
Star Wars.
Episode
The Force
1,
Awakens. Yeah.
The Phantom Menace.
Episode 1, The Force Awakens.
Star Wars The Force Awakens, which makes $149 million in its second week.
Oh, right. Now I remember, like, people were tweeting, like, Sisters is my Star Wars. And I was like,
that was their big
why?
thing.
Why?
Yeah.
It's about sisters.
like, it looks like garbage. Why?
I think the idea of sisters. Well, it was funny because it's a Paul Appel script, right?
Have either of you seen it?
No.
I haven't.
It's
Because
pretty solid.
Yeah,
I
I
will
mean-
say this. I thought all the
I know.
advertising was terrible.
Yeah, but
I saw
you
it
can
out of
never trust the
obligation.
advertising on those
It's
movies.
pretty good, consistent joke movie, and the supporting cast is amazing.
Yeah.
I think
I just-
Paul Appel's a genius.
Yeah.
Or at least, can be a genius. But and it was obvious they just wanted to make a Paul Appel script, right?
Yeah.
Like they've worked with her forever. But like the whole idea of the movie to me just sort of seemed like they were like, you know how Tina Fey's usually the straight-laced one and Amy Poehler is the wilder one? What if we kind of reverse it? Like,
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I just think the movie works pretty well for what it is. Like,
yeah.
as a counterpoint, you look at like the original, not implying that the more recent one is a remake, but the Belushi-Aykroyd Neighbors, where they like do the flip to be like, well, what if Aykroyd's the crazy one?
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
like, well, this isn't what I want.
Yeah.
Both Poehler and Faye do what they're asked to do in Sisters pretty well.
Yeah.
Can you guess what Force Awakens had made by the end of its second weekend? So it's been out for
so now you're saying, right, it's
10 days,
$500 million.
540,
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. Because it made
Yeah.
200 something opening weekend.
250.
And then I assume it's just making like 20 a day,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
or whatever. And then it makes 150
More.
on the
It
next
made like
week.
40 a day
It's so
insane.
good.
because it
Now,
gained 300 million.
Last Jedi isn't going to come close, and
No.
people might be like, "Uh-oh, like is Star Wars in trouble or whatever?" But like, it's just nothing's going to be like that.
Yeah.
But also, the exact same thing happened with the original trilogy. Like, it was like the first one was huge, then Empire was a big dip, and then Return of the Jedi outgrossed Empire.
Right, right.
See, I thought you were talking about the
I thought
Phantom
about it, and I
Menace
thought it would be too confusing. I thought about making that joke and calling it the sequel trilogy.
No
But
bits.
No bits. No bits. Lux, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
One of our earliest supporters.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I
One of the
remember-
hardest die-in-the-wool blankies.
I remember being on that road trip to Joe Gardens where
We were going
you,
up
me,
to
and
see
Julia.
Joe, garden friend of the show, past and future guest.
Yeah, and you were like, I have this idea for a podcast.
I think we had just started it, and I was trying to explain to you. I think we'd maybe done 2 episodes, and I was trying to explain to the two of you why doing a podcast. This is when we still thought we were going to do 100 episodes just on the Phantom
Right.
Menace.
Of course.
And you were like, why would you do that? And I made the whole case for what we thought we were doing.
And then you had me, you talked me into downloading Star Wars Card Trader.
I did.
The dumbest app I have ever downloaded.
I did. You know, I realized, like, as an early adopter, some of those cards I have might actually be worth some money.
But they're all already in the app. That's what I don't get.
I know. Well, that was Joe Garden's big point, was like, if you go to see all cards, you can just see them on your phone.
You just have them already.
But I just remember,
It
like,
was-
4 years ago, whenever it was when that
Yeah.
app came out, our friend Caroline Anderson sold a card on eBay for $150.
Are you fucking kidding?
I'm not
Right, I
kidding
remember
you.
that. I remember
But
that.
I just like, it's like, one of those movies where you realize the magic was inside you all the time.
Yes, it was. The cards were inside us all the time. They were coming from inside the phone. Well, thank you so much for being here.
My
Yep.
Thank you for
pleasure.
supporting the show. As always, please remember to rate, review, subscribe.
Please do.
Thanks to Ange Fergudo for our social media. Thanks to Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork.
Yes.
Which was very Point Break inspired, leaning really hard on the Point Break.
Mostly Point Break.
So this is the episode where you'll really appreciate the artwork.
Right.
Leigh Montgomery for our theme song. Ben's throwing up the devil horns. He's hanging 10. Ben is hanging 10. He looks like he needs a nap. And
as always,
as always,
we never go to the vault.
we never go to the
Don't go to the vault.
Don't go to the vault.